What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another match review as Spurs lost once again 2-1 to Newcastle at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, I think, which makes it nearly 2 months or over 2 months since Spurs have won a home game, which is crazy to think about. You know, 2 months ago we were saying Spurs have turned into a fortress and we haven't won a game since, which is very, very frustrating. And anyway, we'll get into the match and reviewing the Newcastle game in a bit, but I want to get into a Tottenham update and start the day with a bit of an upbeat tone because Spurs have signed someone today. We brought you the news yesterday that they are set to sign I keep forgetting his name. Antonin Kinski of Slavia Prague, a goalkeeper, has joined the ranks. And yes, it was announced about 9:30 this morning. So I guess let's get into the announcement in a second. Ryan Taylor did say that Johan Lang identified Kinski as a target via the data algorithms. Spurs then sent scouts to watch him in the Europa League and impress them further. Spurs initially did plan to pursue a deal for Kinski in the summer, but pushed forward the plans after Vicario's injury.
So we're making ChatGPT signings.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
Look, we know that it was always likely that Tottenham were looking for a keeper. Obviously, the interesting thing is that yesterday Austin actually came in and did quite well. So clearly it didn't put off Tottenham making the move, albeit they'd made this move before Austin had that performance. So Austin has been sitting there for nigh on 10 years, not playing a game. And Tottenham, for one reason or another, they haven't been convinced he's the answer. He comes in yesterday and performs really, really well, and that's made a lot of people question why are we signing a keeper, because Austin's been there and he's played well. But look, it's only one game. There must be a reason why they haven't trusted him before then. Sometimes, you know, as a player, you do only need a chance, and maybe he, you know, yesterday he did took his chance, and maybe he can move on to what's called he can push on from that. But Tottenham have felt like they needed a keeper through the door, and this guy is a bit of a maverick in goal. He's very risk taking with the ball at his feet. You see him doing some crazy things with the ball at his feet. He's super confident. I think he comes in here. I'm sure the way he plays is a reflection of his personality as well, in the sense that he's very confident in most situations on the pitch. If people are pressing him, he's willing to, you know, do lobs over pressing forwards and Cruyff turns in the box and all these kind of things, which I think Ange would like. And I think that confidence as well will probably breed into his personality, where he probably feels like, yeah, I'm coming in right now as number 2 to Vicario, but I'm confident I can take that first team spot, and it's going to be an interesting battle, I think. Yeah,
I do feel like obviously this signals the end for Fraser Forster. In my opinion, we should be trying to move Fraser Forster on or give him some sort of severance package and have the 3 keepers of Kinski as backup and Brandon as third choice. So Kinski will be able to play in Europe after the group stages is done. He has been playing in the Europa League with Slavia Prague this season. But then again, like, what kind of message does it send out to players like Josh Keeley, Brandon Austin, who have both, like Brandon obviously like you said, came in yesterday, did really well. Josh Keeley had loan in the National League last season, doing really well at Leyton Orient in League One this season. They could even be pushing for promotion to the Championship this year. I think it was his 8th clean sheet in 9 games yesterday for Leyton Orient in Brandon Austin. So I mean, he's the same age as Kinski. They're both 21 years of age. So if I'm Josh Keeley, like, I don't know what to be thinking right now, because you're doing really well out on loan. And Spurs have just signed a keeper, pretty much, you know, looking at the future of the club.
Look, it sends a message that this is the standard you're going to have to reach if you're going to make it here. And obviously, I do think this probably confirms that there'll be a loan deal for Keeley probably
next season,
in next season as well. Look, he's doing extremely well. I hope he has a future here at Tottenham, and I hope we keep him around because he seems to be doing incredibly well. But we need players now, and we need a keeper now. I know Austin's come in and done well, but it's only one game. I don't know. I'm not on the training ground. I don't know if he's fully ready to have a run of games. Maybe he is. On yesterday's basis, he could be. And maybe on that basis, could we have just trusted Austin for the short term and then, brought Keeley in next summer? But the club feel they wanted a serious upgrade now to really challenge Vicario. They felt like Austin isn't that. And that's what they want to do. I'm not against it. Look, I think they've clearly brought in someone who has got a high potential, albeit, you know, he's only played really 18 months of like top level football, but he's got Europa League experience in there, Champions League experience. He's played extremely well in his first 6 months at Slavia Prague. They haven't conceded many goals. He's done extremely well. Everyone's been raving about him. And he really suits the system when it comes to the ball at his feet, his passing ability. Is Keeley? I know Keeley's doing well, and I've seen him play, and he is a very, very confident lad. But is he up to scratch on that element of the game? I don't know. I know he's confident, doesn't mean he's as good yet on that element as maybe a Kinski is. So the club feel they need someone right now to come in and really help in that department. And I'm not gonna be mad at the club upgrading potentially in the short term if need be, and I think that there probably is.
In terms of Kinski and Forster, and where does this leave Forster? Surely Forster comes out the squad in Europe after January now. He's going to have to, right?
He's going to have to. We've got no choice. Unless we're going to leave Kinski out of the Europe squad, I think he's going to have to leave out Forster. And I don't think we would have pushed the button on Kinski if Forster didn't have a few performances that clearly Ange was worried about. I think if Forster carried on in the vein he was right at the beginning of him coming into the team, I think we probably just hold off on a keeper. But clearly his performances have been declining ever since he's come into the team. I think everyone's seen that. So I don't think you bring in a keeper in January. I don't think you rush it forward and then leave him out in Europe. That doesn't make any sense. So especially with Vicario is going to be out till March. So albeit by the time if we go through in Europa, by the time it comes back, Vicario might be fit. That's true. But yeah, I think he has to be in.
Does he start on Wednesday?
Great question. It's a very good question because he's going to have 2 days training, Monday, Tuesday. We'll take a good look at him. Also, makes it even more interesting the fact that first of all Forster might be back from his illness, and also Austin played really well on Saturday. So
there's 3 options, right, for Wednesday night. Massive game, biggest game of the season so far. Which option do you go for?
I think, look, you've signed him. You think he can be an upgrade straight away. I mean, if I feel bad for Austin now, I kind of want to reward him for a good performance. But you've decided to push the button early on a keeper in January because you've brought that forward. There must be a reason you've brought that forward, right? You haven't brought it forward because you're certain about the current keepers. And if you're not, and you think this guy can make a real impact, and I also think with keepers, they're probably the ones I would say in our team that the most likely you could just shove straight in and have the least impact when it comes to the way we play. I think he's going to be used to playing with the ball at his feet a lot at the moment, so I think we can chuck him straight in for sure. Yeah, I think I'll chuck him straight in. As much as Austin did really well, I think I'll chuck him straight in and put Austin in against Tamworth.
Well, let's have a look at the announcement that Spurs did this morning. This is how they announced it first and foremost. This is the video of his body looking absolutely ripped. Putting on the shirt.
6'2" he is.
I don't know if you saw yesterday, someone had a shirt with his name on it and his number on it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was someone leaking the announcement beforehand or something, but I did see that. I saw someone. Or maybe someone just went to the club shop and bought it. But how do you know the number?
That's the thing.
Yeah, so it must have been someone leaking it.
So that was the first video. And then this, we're delighted to announce the signing of Antonin Kinski, subject to international clearance and work permit. And then if you click into the website, there's an article and it says, we are delighted to announce the signing of Antonin Kinski from Slavia Prague, subject to international clearance and work permit. The 21-year-old goalkeeper has agreed a deal that will run until 2031 and will wear the number 31 shirt. Born and raised in Prague, Antonin began his footballing journey locally with FC Tempo Prague, then Bohemian Prague, and then Dukla Prague, making his senior debut with the latter in July 2020. He signed for Slavia Prague in July 2021 and joined up with the B team, where the shot stopper made 9 appearances in his debut season. For the second half of the 21-22 campaign, he headed out on loan to MFK Zaiskov, featuring 13 times. Antonin returned for a second loan spell ahead of the following season, taking his tally to 47 appearances across all competitions for the Czech side. He joined Pardubice in July 2023 on a season-long loan, making his Czech First League debut in the same month. Antonin featured 18 times across the campaign, returning to Slavia Prague in 24-25. He has made 29 appearances this season across fixtures in the Czech First League and the Europa League and the Champions League qualifiers, and has kept 14 clean sheets. Featuring from the Czech Republic youth team from under 15 all the way up to under 21 level, Antonin earned his first senior call-up ahead of the 24 October and November Nations League fixtures. So already getting recognition for his national team as well.
Fantastic. The only thing slightly worries me is, first of all, the numbers when it comes to his ability to come for crosses is not particularly strong, and that's something obviously Vicario struggles with. So is he strong, coming into the Premier League, especially when you've got teams like Arsenal and Everton and Newcastle putting the ball right under your throat? We saw how brilliantly Austin dealt with that yesterday. Fair play to Austin. Especially in your first game for so long, how he dealt with that. Will Kinski be able to deal with that as comfortably? That's obviously a big question mark. And definitely shot stopping wise, from what I've seen from little clips of him, he definitely spills the ball way too much. He definitely spills the ball right in front of him. He doesn't hang on to some certain shots, which maybe he should. So, maybe he is still a work in progress.
Well, at 21 as a goalkeeper, you're always going to be a work in progress.
Yeah, but I get that. You're not going to be the finished article at 21, absolutely. But we've decided to sign him. We rushed the signing of him in January when we could have signed him in the summer. So that implies we intend to use him.
Yeah.
And that implies we think he's ready to make an impact now. It's a big risk if he to put him in straight away. I know I just said I would, but obviously that's on the basis that they feel like he's ready. But it is obviously a big risk if he's not completely ready. Based on what I've seen, there's some indication that potentially he's still got a lot of improving to do. In that sense.
I think on that basis, I would actually start Brandon in the game against Liverpool, just because of how well he played. I think he should get recognition for that, and play Antonin in the Tamworth game. But then that begs a big question: who plays the Arsenal game? But look, because there's massive games coming up, and putting Antonin Kinski straight into the deep end, literally a few days after signing, without too much time on the training ground. Because look, you can see what they're about in terms of the scouting system and the data, but you really see what they're about when they're in the doors of Hotspur Way, and when you can see them compared to the other keepers that we have.
But he seems like a very confident kid. He seems like someone who will just take it all in his stride. That's what it looks like to me.
I hope so. We don't know that though.
I mean, judging by how he plays, it looks like that he looks like a fierce kind of character.
It's all well and good doing that in the Czech league, but it's a different kettle of fish coming to the Premier League.
Yeah, of course it is. He's done in Europe as well.
Yeah.
He's also played in Europe and done really well as well. So this is a kid who's every test he's had, he's done really well. He's passed it. He's now moved on to, a very big club in England, and of course it's his biggest test yet, and it's very going to be very difficult for him. But again, as I say, I don't think we sign him very early on in January. We're the 5th of January here. We've signed him right at the start of the month if we don't intend to use him very quickly. I think that's probably the case, because there's no point signing him and then waiting a month to put him in when Vicario is going to be back in March. You probably sign him at this point because you intend to use him.
That's
what I think.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see on Wednesday.
On logic states. Maybe
we'll see on Wednesday what happens.
Maybe he might reward Austin. And I wouldn't be against that either, because Austin did very well. But there's clearly a reason they've signed him early and not trusted Austin before. Yeah.
I wonder if they knew Austin was going to have a performance like that, if they would have rushed it still.
Yeah, maybe not.
Look, we'll see. The next tweet is from Tottenham, says, "Welcome to Tottenham Hotspur, Antonin." He actually suits that, doesn't he?
To be here.
And then the next one is just a little quote from him saying, "It's a new experience. I'm really happy and really excited." And if you go onto the website, you'll see an interview from him as well. And this is the last one, saying, "Checking in," with him coming and arriving at Hotspur Way, doing his medical and stuff, which was after the game yesterday.
Fantastic stuff. Well, welcome to the club, Antonin. We're all rooting for you. let's hope you've got a good career ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the first signing sealed and delivered in the January transfer window. And apparently it doesn't stop there, as Paul O'Keefe says that he expects the next signing to be an attacking one. But we actually are going to talk about defensive options first and foremost, as Paul O'Keefe says that Ko Itakura has been offered to Tottenham. However, it does sound like he's the backup option.
Interesting. Obviously, he's a bit more experienced. He's like, 27? He is very good with the ball at his feet, and he's quite a good ball-playing defender. Has spent a bit of time midfield as well. Look, I think he's a good fullback option. We definitely, when it comes to players that we need through the door, I think he kind of fits what we're trying to do. I don't think he's like the paciest player, but I don't think he's any slouch either. So I think in terms of his confidence on the ball, his ability to progress the ball up the thirds, he's actually pretty good. So I don't mind him as a backup option, but let's hope we really go for our first choice options. I'm interested to see who our first choice options are.
Yeah. I mean, Thomas Christensen, who we're going to be talking about next, has been spoken about a lot over the past couple of days or so. And a publication in Italy say that Spurs are showing very serious interest in the quest to sign centre-back Thomas Christensen. Udinese will be willing to sanction his sale this month for around 16.5 million euros.
Cheap.
So, yeah, fairly good price, which makes me think, like, if they value him, I mean, if he's that good and he's doing so well at Udinese, like, why so cheap?
Don't know, maybe Udinese need the money. We know that that kind of money is a lot more for Serie A teams than it is for Premier League. We know that.
But that still sounds really cheap.
It is quite cheap. Yeah, you think if he's a top talent, you'd probably be looking to spend more than that, you'd probably think. Apparently he's quite quick off the ground as well, quite tall. But apparently playing out the back, there's a few question marks about him. So
yeah. Well, I mean, if you believe that, the thing is, like, with rumours now in Tottenham and the way Johan Lang works, it makes it feel like all these rumours are just for nothing, because we talk about all these players and then the next couple of days just someone completely out the blue just signed for Spurs without any rumours. So I feel like all these rumours are all kind of like
rule them out if they're rumours.
Literally, that's what I feel like at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's Johan Lang, I think, for sure. Kind of adds a special kind of every day you don't know what's going to happen in a way at the moment.
But you can only talk about what's in front of you. That's the reality.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, judging by what the press is saying, I kind of think that Thomas Christensen might be the first choice and Ko Itakura might be the second choice, but I'm probably completely wrong on that, and neither of them are a choice.
Probably, I would say that anything, like I think anything Paul O'Keefe says is probably more likely to be true because he's not a media outlet, but anything that's been pushed by a media outlet is probably less likely to be true.
Yeah, I mean, Paul O'Keefe was saying that Spurs are going for a keeper in Germany a few days ago.
Yeah,
So-
maybe they were looking at one. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. And look, last but not least, let's look at the forward line, and we're going to talk about Randal, KOLO, MUANI, as Paul O'Keefe said yesterday. Well, first of all, yesterday around social media was ablaze, saying there's a striker, there's a forward player that is going to be made known to us tomorrow, which is today, and they were saying it's a serious option and Spurs are really looking to get him in and we want to get him in pretty quickly. And Paul O'Keefe says the next player that we do bring in will be a forward option. And then he said Randal, KOLO, MUANI does interest Tottenham a lot in January, and then he confirmed today that the unknown forward that everyone was talking about yesterday is Randal, KOLO, MUANI, and he's waiting to hear if that deal is close or not. Alfredo Padula also said that Juventus have been informed of KOLO MUANI's situation, as well as Tottenham, with Juventus also pursuing Joshua Zirkzee, so they're challenging on both fronts. And Corriere della Sera, who's an Italian publication, say that Tottenham have serious interest in Randal, KOLO, MUANI. Spurs are prepared to compete against AC Milan, Monaco, Juventus and RB Leipzig to land the forward. I mean, he's a player that really burst onto the scene at 2-3 years ago at Eintracht Frankfurt. Didn't go well for him after his big money move to PSG. I was really impressed with him at the World Cup when in Qatar. You know, he was coming off the bench and really making a real impact. He's really fast, direct. The wages that he's on, I think, can maybe be in line with what Spurs are looking to offer. I think he's on 150 grand a week, around that, plus bonuses. So I think Spurs will be, well in line to do that. We've done that with Timo Werner and the like. So I think if we were to do a deal with this, it would probably be a loan with an option to buy.
Definitely. Yeah. And when it comes to MUANI himself, I think obviously he really burst on the scene, but he was playing under Glasner when he was at Frankfurt in that front three. Now, we know the way Glasner likes to play. He's very much a player a manager who sets up his team so that they're very transitional. They exploit space when they can in the forward line, and that's what MUANI was doing. Kind of when he was under Oli Glasner, he was kind of heading that front line, and he was the one pretty much tasked with getting in behind defences, taking people on, exploiting space in transition, just being very, very direct. Now, you know, PSG play a very different way, especially under Luis Enrique. Very much possession-based, you know, playing against a lot of settled defences, and he has struggled in that sense. And again, for France, he's actually done all right for France. But again, France are under Deschamps, again, are a team who are very defensively solid. They do come up against good low blocks as well, but in general, they're a team that prefer to play in transition than they do against low block teams. Deschamps is very much a manager who's kind of like defence first. So
I think most of our attacking players are better in the transition, though.
yeah, then that's a problem. That's my point. And bringing MUANI, you know, there are definitely doubts whether he is suited to how we would set up, for sure. Because if he's either playing up front or he's played on the wing sometimes, is he someone who can kind of play up against teams who are basically denying him space? And is he good enough in those kind of scenarios? Now, maybe we're thinking if he plays on the wing, where for us, I think our wingers probably get more space than our strikers at the moment, and they get opportunities to take people on, and maybe we feel like we can make him into a better winger than a striker. I can see it. Obviously, if we bring him in up front, obviously that would tell me that Richarlison can't be trusted to stay fit, which we know is true, but he is going to be fit in the next week or so, apparently. So be odd to bring another striker just as he's getting fit, unless we don't believe he can stay fit, which is not a unjustified belief. I think there are question marks about his suitability to Spurs, 100%. But on the flip side, he is a player who's done very well, shown he can do very well at the top level of European football and in Europe as well. And as well, in this kind of market, players like MUANI, who are unfancied at a very top club, who are only a big money signing 18 months ago, there's not a load of them about. There's not loads of these players who've got high quality who are available. And maybe if he's someone who we can get and is someone who we believe could potentially improve the front line and has certain qualities that we could use, then it's worth doing a loan with an option, because I think there's a chance it might not get better than him. That's the truth.
Yes, but I would argue that we desperately need a winger, a natural winger, to come in this January. An out-and-out winger, a 1v1 winger, like a Johan Bakayoko, who's been touted for a move to Newcastle and 35 million, whatever it may be. KOLO MUANI is a natural striker, and I just feel like when you're looking at what we need in the front line and what's a desperate need, I don't think he's a desperate need.
No, I don't disagree. But I'm just saying...
And I don't think we should just take him just because he's available and just because he could potentially be a high-quality player.
No, but my point is, there might not be better than him available.
But we are only the 5th of January. We are only the 5th of January.
I know, and I'm sure the Spurs are looking at different options and exploring different things. And maybe they've seen something in MUANI where maybe they feel like if they put him on the wing, he can do certain things and has certain qualities that could do really well for us on the wing. Maybe they've decided that, because he can be a good dribbler. He is quite quick. Maybe they've decided, or maybe they've looked at it and think if we could mould him into a winger. And because he hasn't quite worked out up front or on the wing, to be honest, over the last 2 years. But obviously his best season was up front. But I guess the same was like for Werner. His best season was up front for Leipzig, and we decided to turn him into a winger. So maybe we're looking at the MUANI situation and thinking, there's certain things they've done. They've crunched the numbers on, and they looked at the data and thought, actually, he could really do a job on the wing for us if we mould him in a certain way and teach and get him playing our way. And if that's the case, I'm willing to go with it, because I think at the moment, this window's tough, especially for good quality attackers. Teams, if you want a good quality attacker, teams are not willing to let them go if they're starting. So you're looking for players either have not long left on their contract or are out of favour. Or if they are starting, you have to pay a massive premium. And you're not going to get teams, players out of teams who are probably playing Champions League right now because they're still in their Champions League campaigns. You're not going to get players out of teams who are challenging at the top for titles or Europe. So you're looking at middle teams or maybe teams battling relegation. Yeah, and that's also difficult because teams battling relegation don't want to lose their players as well. So someone like MUANI, who's kind of right in that sweet spot where he's a good player, a good team, who's out of favour. That's kind of your best bet at the moment. And I don't see too many players who are good and out of favour at a top team right now available.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do pay the money, you're probably more than likely to get them.
Who?
Like someone like Bakayoko, you know, someone that I think there's plenty of players around, even in the Championship, in Premier League clubs, in the Eredivisie, in the French league. Surely it can't be just MUANI that's available. There's got to be players available, you know. It can't just be him. There's got to be loads of players and someone that's actually going to fit what we actually need. When I don't think MUANI fits exactly what we need right now.
I'm sure there are players we know of that we want, and I'm sure there are players we've scouted, but that we can get in January. Maybe there are, but it's very, very difficult. I'm saying MUANI might be the best one, is what I'm saying.
Maybe best one quality-wise, but not the best fit for what we need.
Yeah, maybe not, but he might turn out to be, if we can kind of mould him into what we need him to be. He might be. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I think there's a chance he might be because January is very difficult for all those reasons I explained.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. But apparently he is the attacking option that Spurs have very serious interest in and are looking. So we'll have to wait and see how this one progresses. But having said that, it's probably not him and someone completely out of the blue.
Look,
and we'll probably sign someone tomorrow.
I would rather someone else better fit, but I'd rather MUANI than not signing any forward. I'd rather take a punt on him on loan.
Yeah, look, I'll take him over nobody, obviously, but I completely agree. I think we need to sign someone that we need, and we need a winger. We need an out-and-out winger, someone with really good 1v1 dribbling that can take that attack onto the next level.
Yeah, of course.
But that is your Tottenham update. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and we're going to move on to the game from yesterday in a second. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Nahid Ahmed said, Gyökeres, I don't know, maybe. We ain't getting Gyökeres now, I'll tell you that.
No, we ain't getting Gyökeres. According to the bar, we've beaten Newcastle 2-1. Unfortunately, that didn't happen.
We're trying to rewrite history here at WeAreTottenhamTV.
There you go.
All right, well, let's get into it then. Tottenham 1, Newcastle 2. Another game, another defeat. This one, you know, we talk about the circumstances of the injuries that we're going through. This one had added kind of woes, didn't it, with plenty of players not training. I think 7 or 8 players were training in the days leading up to the game, which made it really difficult. You're looking at the likes of Radu Dragusin and Archie Gray. Ange said that they literally just got out of bed recovering from the illness and pretty much went straight onto the pitch. Fraser Forster didn't even get the chance to get out of bed. He was just sick in bed the whole week. You've got players like Maddison who didn't train. I mean, a lot of players didn't train this week, which, in my opinion, did make the performance a bit impressive. I mean, I don't want to talk about excuses for the loss or anything like that, but you're looking at the way we started the game. We went 1-0 up. We were looking good. We were looking sharp. We were looking dangerous. But then I felt after Newcastle scored, in the last 25 minutes of that first half, they were really on top. They were opening us up at will. They probably should have scored more goals than they did. They go into half-time 2-1 up. But yeah, I mean, Isak had a gilt-edged chance that he should have put away. Anthony Gordon had pretty much a carbon copy of the chance that he did put away, and they were just opening us up. So I think going in half-time at 2-1 down probably flattered us a bit.
Yeah, I mean, there was always going to be a period in the game, I felt, when Newcastle were on top and we were struggling to keep them at bay, and that did happen. But obviously the way we started the game was brilliant. And it's just a massive shame because we've started games well at home before, but the way that the wind just got taken out of our sails a minute after scoring with that decision, I feel. And I've seen it again. You know, I've taken some time to look at it. I think it's a handball. I actually now starting to think it's a deliberate handball because I think there's kind of an unspoken rule in football where with the handball rule, where if you actively move your hand, whether it be accidental or not, you can't really tell the intent of a player, what his feeling is in his head. But I think there's a bit of an unspoken rule. If you move your hand towards the ball, then that's handball. And I think that's what Joel Linton did. It wasn't, I think if you look at the replay again, he actively moves his hand towards the ball and blocks the pathway. And I think that goal should have been ruled out. It does have a material difference on the goal because it stops Tottenham from being an attack. And in fact, it only doesn't just stop Tottenham from being an attack. It puts Newcastle through on goal pretty much with that one moment. Also, you can see with the goal as well, you can see Dragoshin was struggling to get to Gordon, couldn't you? If you look at that goal.
Yeah. He was struggling the whole way through the first half, let's be real.
But especially that moment, you know, he had a few yards on Gordon. Gordon just was able to accelerate away from him, and Dragoshin tried his best to get close to him, but he just couldn't. Maybe it was because of that. But I do believe that actually Joel Linton moved his hand into the pathway of the ball.
But isn't the rule that if that happens and it's a non-intentional handball and a ball to hand, essentially, whether you think it is or not, just say it is for now, and that's what they said, it's a ball to hand, then if it's leading up to a goal, then it's fine. But if it's actually the goal scorer, then that's when it gets disallowed.
Correct.
So I think that's what happened, though.
I don't. I've watched it again, and I think Joel Linton moves his hand into the pathway of the ball.
But he's running, right? And people run like this. People don't run like this.
Yeah,
like,
but his hand was behind his back. I think he instinctively quickly moved his hand and stopped to stop a counter, actually. And I think, yes, he was running, but actually, again, if you watch it back, he stops just before Lucas Bergvall passes the ball. He actually stops running. He plants his foot, and his hand was behind his back, and I think he instinctively pulls out. Now, granted, it's not out like this. It is by his side. It's not like tucked in, but it is by his side, right? But I think, again, I've said it. So, like, there is a bit of an unspoken rule. When you move your hand towards the ball, then handball is given. And I think, yes, by the law, technically it's still accidental. But I've seen so many penalties where, even though it's a similar thing to what happened yesterday, because they move their hand towards the ball, it's given as a handball and it's seen as deliberate. Because you can't know the intention, right, of what's in a player's head. So just because the hand is by his side, right, it can still be intentional handball if you block it, right? I think he moves his hand towards the ball. I think he blocks the pathway. He actually moves his hand into the pathway of the ball and blocks it as the pass is being played. So I think that's intentional handball. That should be seen as deliberate handball, in my opinion, and the goal should have been ruled out.
You know, I kind of see the arguments both ways, and I do feel for the ref a bit in this situation because I think, you know, both sides have a strong case in terms of which way the decision's going to go. But then I was thinking about this yesterday, and yesterday I was arguing with you about whether it should or whether it shouldn't. But then last night I was thinking about the bloody Dyer handball that got given against us against Newcastle, where it hits the back of his hand and is nowhere near a handball.
They changed the rules after that.
I know they've changed the rules, but still, it's just it wound me up seeing those on social media yesterday. The Dyer one, the Lucas Moura one against Sheffield United, when he's falling on the ground and that gets a goal ruled out against us. So these things just wind me up, and then whenever it's against Spurs, these things always gets given against us.
100%. First of all, I do think it's actually deliberate handball. I actually didn't think it was accidental and further along. But also, even if it was accidental, I don't think we should be allowing players to block counter-attacks with their hand and set their own team up on with a chance. I think that's ridiculous. While blocking the ball essentially with their hand. I don't think that's what the rules of football should be. I don't think that's what fans want as the rules of football. And I think it was a disgrace. I think it should have been ruled out. I think it was... Again, it was really hard done by because it was in a period we were playing well. We were looking a bit more confident. Obviously, Sarr and Bergvall were linking up a bit. On reflection, though, Bergvall did have a pass inside to Decky. He probably could have done that instead of going out wide to Porro. So maybe it was the wrong decision. But he gets blocked by the hand. And his hand does make it, however you want to say, I don't think you're right. It's not like out there, but it's still making his body bigger. So him blocking the pass with his hand, it should have been going to Pedro Porro, and Spurs should have been on the attack. And I think we just got completely screwed over in that moment. Really unlucky. I think we responded well to that moment, but then obviously at 1-1, after about 15-20 minutes, Newcastle did take control. Isaac had that chance. He then scores. Gordon had a kind of half chance where he hits it the near post. I wouldn't say they created they created chances, no doubt about it, and you can see our defence was struggling, especially Spence was struggling to contain Murphy. Dragoshin was struggling to pick up. Isaac. Gordon had that one chance. I wouldn't say I actually didn't feel like Porro was struggling, but Gordon obviously did get 2 chances. But considering the problems we were having at the back, they did have about 3 chances, but I don't think they had much more than that.
Yeah, in the whole game they created 4 big chances. We created 1. That's the reality. But look, I want to talk about Ange's comments about the refs, because he was very frustrated and very angry. He said it's the most angriest he's been after the game, and I can really sense his frustrations, because Dan Burn and Joe Linton, first of all, Joe Linton, in the first 5-6 minutes, first 10 minutes of the game, he made 2 or 3 fouls. 2 of them didn't even get picked up by the ref. He could have even been sent off after the first 10 minutes, but he kept persisting with the fouls throughout the game. He finally got booked. In what minute did he get booked
70th?
in the 73rd minute, he got booked, where he could have been sent off a long time before that. This guy is the dirtiest fucker I've seen in the Premier League this season. Every game he's at it. It's not even just this game. Every single game he's at it. And he gets booked. And he should be getting a lot more red cards than he gets, Joe Linton. And Dan Burn as well. Dan Burn should have been sent off as well. I just don't understand what the ref was watching. It felt like the ref was just playing against us yesterday. That's what it felt like.
I agree with it, especially first of all, Joe Linton, I thought, I've seen it again. I don't understand why not more people are looking at that elbow he did on Bergvall. He literally, he's got a clenched fist, and he clearly elbows Bergvall. Now, I have to watch it a few more times to see if it was accidental or not, but it looks like he literally just elbows Bergvall in the back of the head, off the ball, for no reason, really. And I think VAR should have at least had a look at it, or at least, decided whether that was intentional or not. It looks like they just breezed over that one for no reason. You're right, but Joe Linton should have been booked at least once in the opening 10 minutes, and then maybe that changes his game, because he just kept committing fouls. How many fouls did he actually made throughout the day?
Well, there was 2 that never got picked up. But in terms of how many got picked up was 2, but I think there was at least 4 or 5 in there.
Yeah, so he was just making so many fouls, and maybe it would have affected his game if he was on an early yellow. He couldn't make so many challenges like he was. Maybe he doesn't do that bloody elbow if he's on a yellow. And I think Dan Burn, for whatever you want to say about the Joel Linton handball, this guy has his arms like this, right? There's actually no reason for him to have his arms like that. And he actually, again, stops a counter, because Decky was in behind him if he doesn't handle the ball. That's, again, deliberate handball. I don't know why he's not sent off. Why is not a second yellow card? I think they completely, again, got away with one. Again, that was a period of the game where we were actually playing well, and we were actually on top of them, and we were causing them, we were clearly, forcing mistakes out of them. They were making fouls, and they were making stupid decisions, and they weren't getting punished for it. And as soon as those situations ended, all of a sudden Newcastle took control and then obviously took the lead in the game. But I think if those things went in for us and they got a man sent off, it could have been a very, very different game, especially how we took control of the game in the second half. So very frustrated with those decisions. I can understand why Ange's so angry, as well, also with the handball as well that led to the goal. I think I don't think I've ever seen him so fuming in a post-match interview, for sure. He said fair and equal about 9 times, I think, in that interview. Look, some people say it's a manager looking under pressure when he looks so angry and like that. But I also think he wanted to get that over, that sense of injustice for his players, because he knows how much effort they put into that game considering the circumstances. And I feel like he didn't want to focus on the fact that we lost another game. I think he wanted to focus on that. He wanted for players to feel like there was a sense of injustice in that game, because in terms of the result we got, considering the effort, there was a bit of injustice, and obviously with the referee as well. So I think he was trying to create a bit of a siege mentality with his comments.
Yeah, I mean, it has brought up the question of that Ange keeps kind of contradicting himself a little bit, because last season he did make a comment after one game, I can't remember which game it was, saying, oh, he's never going to make a comment about a ref, and the refereeing decisions are the refereeing decisions on the day.
Well, technically he didn't.
Yeah, but I mean, we all know what he was insinuating.
Yeah, I guess, but technically he didn't.
And then also he once said that he's never going to throw a player under the bus and stuff like that, and he does it to Timo Werner a few weeks ago. So there are a few kind of contradictory moments in there from Ange Postecoglou. But look, I think when you're looking at the balance of play at halftime, I do think Newcastle were the better team on the whole of the balance of play. They create the better chances. They went in 2-1 up. And I think it was deserved, and it probably could have been a lot more. The game could have been out of sight at halftime. That's the reality.
Well, I think Newcastle didn't create the amount of chances they should have, actually. They created 3, but which made look. I only think really the Isaac one was a sitter.
Well, look, they scored two. They scored two, right? And then they had
from a handball.
Yeah, but then they had another one from Gordon, and they had another one from
I'm saying
Isaac
Gordon
as well.
wasn't a sitter. That would have been another good finish. It was in the near post. Isaac was a sitter. Could have scored that one. And obviously,
But still better than chances that we were creating.
I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying they probably could have created more. Like in that period when they were on top, they probably didn't create as much as they should.
I mean, they had a 1.82 xG at halftime, and we had a 0.35.
Yeah, that comes from Isaac tapping it into the empty net and Isaac missing from the 6-yard box.
Yeah,
I'm just saying they could have created more. In my point, it wasn't as if they could have had 5 goals. Is my point. They could have. They had 3 chances. They scored 2 of them, and they missed one really gilt-edged one.
Look, and then halftime comes, and we're all talking about what changes do we need to make. We're really under pressure here, and then you see, you see Reguilon on the touchline, just like surely Spencer's coming on. Spence was being given a really torrid time by Jacob Murphy. He was getting done quite a few times. I thought since Spencer's come in, I thought this is the one where he probably came under most pressure and probably maybe his poorest performance since coming in at left or right back since brought out of the cold. So I thought it was going to be for Jed Spence. Then you'll think, then Dragoshin, we realise, goes off. Spence goes into centre back alongside Archie Gray. We have no natural defender on the pitch for the second half. And they troubled us a lot less in the second half than they did in the first half. I thought Spence was a lot better at Dragoshin at centre-back, and he played pretty well, Spence, in the second half. And Reguilon came in completely out of the cold, and he plays a lot better at left-back than I thought Jed Spence was doing at left-back.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I think Spence as well, on the ball, a lot more confident than Dragoshin was. Look, Dragoshin was clearly going to this game very ill, running on empty, so don't want to criticise him too much. But that was that one moment where he has the ball under no pressure, right? Porro was to his right, and he just plays it out play for no reason, under no pressure. No one was near him. And it wasn't even a difficult ball. It was a 5-yard pass, and he played out play. And at that point, you're like, okay, this guy, I don't think he's up to it right now. But Spence came on, and I thought he was a lot more confident on the ball. Obviously, he had that pace in behind to track Isaac. I thought, in terms of aerially, I thought later in the game he was being caught out a bit, but I think aerially he did okay as well. There was some moments where he tried to dribble his way out of trouble, and he nearly got caught, but
kept buying fouls.
But on another day, if one referee might see one of those challenges as one of those fouls as a bit weak, and maybe he doesn't give it, and all of a sudden we're in trouble. But he did get away with it a couple of times. But I've actually felt like filling in at centre back, he did a really good job, and credit to him, because difficult circumstances, up against the most informed current striker in the league, up against someone like Gordon as well on the left-hand side, who likes to cut inside. And I thought he really stood up to the challenge. And Newcastle really struggled to create in that second half, really struggled to get beyond that back line. And Spence, I think, in terms of his just willingness to put his body on the line, his actually how much better he was on the ball in terms of progressing up the pitch and playing better passes than Dragoshin, and his pace in behind, just mopping things up, really helped us actually. And so fair play to him. I think there were things in there which suggest that, long term, I wouldn't want to see him there too many more times. So I actually think, a few times he was beaten in the air, a few times, as I say, dribbling his way out of trouble, which could have put himself in trouble. But the way he filled in 45 minutes, I can't have any complaints. So fair play to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually really happy for Reguilon. And look, it just begs the question. I know he's not fancied by Ange Postecoglou. We tried to sell him. He wanted to leave, blah, 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 blah. But we've run a doggy into the ground. We've run Pedro Porro into the ground. And we've had options there where we could give them a bit of rest that, in the last half an hour of games, even start games from time to time. We've literally ran these players into the ground that's done no one the world of good. So why the hell has Ange done that when he's had options there available to him?
Look, that's a fair criticism, I think. Clearly, Udogi's played the most minutes for us this season, and what we ask of our fullbacks, has he struggled with that workload, I think, clearly.
That Reguilon performance yesterday was not a performance like saying you're so bad you cannot step foot on the pitch. And that's pretty much how we've been treating him.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to be here, and we don't want him here.
Yeah, so but he is here. He is here, and we're paying him wages.
I know, but we, at the end of the day, we try to get rid of him, right? How much is a player bought into what you're trying to do? I know he's on training every day because obviously we're paying him to train, but can you rely on a player in that kind of situation to step in? Obviously,
But it's got to be better than running a player into the ground.
well, obviously we've had Spence. Obviously, Reguilon's not in the Europa squad. We can't play him in the Europa. No, neither is Spence, right? So you're saying, should we play him in the Premier League? Well, we haven't been playing Spence in the Premier League, so there's already a player there that could have had more game time than him.
Yeah,
So,
I'm talking about both of them, to be honest.
yeah, I don't disagree. They probably both should have had more game time at this point because obviously Gray's been filling in at fullback. He's been playing in Europe. Only played once in the Premier League at fullback, though. That was against Bournemouth. But I think when they've both been there, especially Spence, I don't really see why we haven't used him a bit more. Clearly, he just felt like I don't know. I'm not on the training ground. I don't know why he hasn't used them more. Obviously, it was last chance saloon yesterday. It was literally, we chose Reguilon because we had no one else, and he was the only one that we could pick there. And look, maybe he surprised Ange. Maybe he surprised a few people with a decent performance and actually did quite well. But maybe he should have used them earlier. I think the fact that Udogie's injured, I think there's some fair criticism of Ange that he's played
I don't like
much.
the comments from Ange as well. We were speaking about Spence. I think it was before this game or after the last game. It was in the last week. And he was saying that, Spence is doing really well, but he's only got this chance and he's taken this chance. He's only got this chance because of the injuries. And I'm thinking, why has he only got the chance because of the injuries when you've got him as an option and he train and you keep saying he's training really well? He impressed so well in pre-season. Like, why is he only getting a chance because of injuries? It just doesn't make sense to me. And I think I just think it's a clear mismanagement of the squad. Clear.
Yeah, I think the fact that Udogie's injured is true, and obviously Porro's also been running on empty for a while. I think the idea was going into the season. I think it was clear as well that obviously Spence was an option, but he felt like he would play Porro and Udogie in the Premier League, and then he would play Gray plus one of Udogie and Porro in the Europa League. That's how he thought, and then Gray and Porro would play one week, and then Gray and Udogie would play the other Europa League game, and that's how he was managing it because Jed Spence wasn't in the Premier League team. But Spence, whenever he's come in, has shown he can do a job in these Premier League games. I don't know why he hasn't played in more Premier League games, especially when the Doggies or Porro have been playing in Europa League. But that's the decision he took, and I think he definitely should have played them more. I think that's clear.
Yeah. Let's talk about Porro actually, because I thought it was his best performance for a while. He was actually putting crosses bang on the money. That assist for Solanke's goal in the first few minutes was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
What a cross, bang on the money. Great diving header for Solanke. He was also brilliant in the game yesterday, I thought. And he was putting in those crosses a few times yesterday, Porro, wasn't he? And I felt like it was the first time this season, pretty much, that we were constantly looking for Dom Solanke in his head. And I was thinking, why the hell have we not done that all season? We all know that he scored the most amount of headed goals in the Premier League last season. That's clearly one of his key and biggest strengths. Why have we not been utilising that?
Yeah, we should be. Obviously, as his first headed goal for Tottenham, we usually like to play the ball into feet, and he'd like to use his strength with his back to goal and use his layoffs, and obviously look for those cutbacks that along the ground. And I think Solanke's quite good at those as well. But yeah, I think we should be swinging it in a lot more.
Especially if we have quality of crossing as Pedro Porro.
Yeah, I agree. Porro is a brilliant crosser of the ball. Obviously, on the other side, I don't know if that's true, but also you got Maddison there, who's a very good deep crosser as well. Decky on his day is a good crosser. So I think that definitely should be something we're looking to do more and find Solanke, and maybe we will after this goal that's been scored. But I don't know why we haven't utilised that more, because he's very strong in the box. He beat Sven Botman to the ball with a brilliant diving header, and it's something when we're struggling to break down a low block, especially. I think you can definitely see what the value's in that, and I think we haven't utilised his strength in the air at all enough.
You're looking at how dominant we were heavily focused on possession in the second half. We were dominating them. They were kind of edging further and further back on the pitch as the game wore on. And I thought before Lucas Bergvall went off in that second half, he was like growing in influence, wasn't he? I thought he was brilliant on the ball. The kind of weight of pass that he has and the ability to spread the play like he can, I think is top notch for a player of his age doing it in the Premier League. It felt like he had so much time and space on the ball, particularly in the second half. I did feel in the first half like it was a bit of a physical mismatch, him against Joe Linton, but I felt like in that sense, yeah, it was a mismatch. But whenever he did get on the ball, he did provide moments of quality. He was involved in our first goal as well.
Yeah, he strode away
Pedro.
from he still strode away from Joel Linton for that first goal.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. But I think a lot of times Joe Linton was just muscling him off, wasn't he?
Yeah,
quite easily.
He does it to a lot of Premier League players, doesn't he, Joel Linton? He's one of those physical centre mids in the league. And I think they've got one of the Newcastle, one of the most formidable, athletic and aggressive midfield threes. And I actually think probably did take a bit of time to adjust for him in the game, but I thought in general did really well, especially only a second start in the Premier League, again playing kind of like a sixth position. And I thought he did really, really well. And credit to Bergvall, because it was a very, very difficult occasion for him and a very, very difficult day, and he stood up to the challenge. But apparently, you know, there are some suggestions he was also one of the players who was suffering with flu still before the game. So I don't blame Ange for taking him off. And I actually thought Basuma had a really good cameo. So, and I also thought we started off the second half like we did in how we started the first half. The problem with the first half is we ran out of energy, clearly. So if we were going to sustain that energy, we needed to make changes. So didn't surprise me that he made the change. And I think it worked in terms of we did sustain the energy in that second half.
We did. And I don't think we ever came under sustained amount of pressure in the second half like we did in the first half. So we kept those energy levels, we just couldn't create constant meaningful chances. I felt like Brennan Johnson, Kulusevski, Timo, and then Sonny weren't really at the races too much. And I think that's what really let us down on the day in terms of trying to get back into the game. I mean, Kulusevski, captain's armband on the day, and he just wasn't the Kulusevski that we've seen all season. I know he had about 4 or 5 key passes on the day, but still, he wasn't that physical decky, just muscling off people and taking it past people. And Brennan Johnson was pretty much non-existent apart from the couple of moments that he had. I mean, there was that one moment he had, it looked like he had the goal gaping at him, and he just, I don't know if it was a shot or a cross. I don't know what it was, but it was terrible, whatever it was.
Had to be scoring from there, actually. If you look at that, a snapshot of when he takes the shot or whatever it is, when he hits the ball, that's a good goal scoring position. And it's actually perfect for someone like Brennan, that's really his position. I agree, he didn't do anywhere near enough. He actually had a lot of opportunities down the right-hand side to take people on, get crosses in, link up. Wasn't there. Albeit, I thought in the first half that he had a couple of really nice moments. There was that moment where Solanke had that shot blocked by Botman, and he ran right through the heart of that Newcastle defence and set up the chance. So fair enough. I thought Decky was a weird one. I thought when he got into the penalty area, I actually thought he did all right, because he set up that chance for Johnson. With that chance, I thought he was actually linking up with Solanke quite well in the box, but outside the box, I think he really struggled to impact the game. And I think he really struggled with when he made a yard for himself, his pass was a bit off, and there was that moment as well where Porro plays it into him, and he just has to take a touch into the penalty area, and he doesn't take it into his stride, and it falls behind him. And obviously, he's playing against 3 of the most physical midfielders probably in the league at the moment, or 3 brilliant midfielders. So it was a difficult day for him, and look, he didn't do well. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't his best game. He struggled. I don't think he was horrendous, but it was definitely one of his worst games, unfortunately, this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So Timo did literally nothing in the hour that he was on the pitch, and Sonny, I think he was better than Timo, but still couldn't really provide too much of an impact out on that left-hand side. And Dom Solanke, we know about Dom Solanke, tireless runner, extremely hard worker. I thought out of the front line, he was probably the best out of the lot.
Yeah, I agree. Well, he was the one kind of getting chances. Porro was swinging it in. I think he had a couple of headers, didn't he? Which weren't really close, but obviously forced Dubravka into a couple of comfortable saves. Obviously, we did have that chance when the ball flashed across the face of goal a couple of times. We also had a chance when Brennan hit the post as well. So we did have openings. We didn't have, I would say, clear cut chances. Look, Newcastle, when they do sit back, we've seen it how many times this season. When they played Arsenal, they just sat back and Arsenal couldn't do anything. They just couldn't break them down. They can be a very solid unit when they get into that mode. But I also think that the theory that Newcastle just sat back and...
Yeah, Arsenal can't break that many teams these days.
Maybe that's true, but as well. But I also think people saying, the reason why our defence didn't get exposed is because Newcastle just sat back and just didn't want to go forward. I really look. Maybe he did, but I really highly doubt Eddie Howe looked at our defence in that second half and thought, what we'll do? We won't go for it. We won't try and kill off this game. Look at that. He won't think that defence can be got at. He'll probably think, let's sit back and soak up pressure, and let's just hope that Tottenham failed to create chances or missed their chances, I'm pretty sure he would have wanted to kill off that game with our defence. And I think we just did really well to kind of suffocate them.
Yeah, and I think that when you're looking at the reaction of Isak when he got subbed, you know, I think that's what he was thinking in his mind. Like, look at this defence that I'm playing against. Like, surely if anyone's going to literally go through the heart of that defence and get the goals, it's going to be me.
Exactly.
And I felt like he was very frustrated because he's coming up against a makeshift defence and he thought this is a great opportunity to get some numbers up.
And also, that's what I've seen from them in their last few games. They beat Ipswich and Leicester 4-0. Against United, they didn't stop going for goals. They kept going for more and more goals, and they could have had 3 or 4 or 5 if they didn't miss a few chances. So I really doubt that I know they were time wasting near the end, maybe in the last 15 minutes or so when it really got close to it. I agree, but for the opening 35 minutes or so, I think they were trying to get up the pitch, but I think we were just preventing them. I think they struggled to really get into our half, and they struggled to create chances because of how we were playing, not because they decided we're not going to attack anymore. I just think that would have been a silly tactic from them given how our backline was looking.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that we just couldn't hurt them as much as maybe the dominance showed in that second half. That's the reality. Yeah. And I think on the balance of play, I think, you're looking at it and you think Spurs deserved more out of the game with the dominance that we had in the first 15 minutes and in the whole of the second half. But the reality is Newcastle did create the better chances over the course of the 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I also think, given all the circumstances that we're going through in this game, I think that's what a lot of people are pointing at, because everyone expected a heavy defeat going into this game.
Yeah.
And the fact that we went into that second half, obviously it was only 2-1, but we went into that second half and actually dominated them. We kept them at bay. We didn't allow them into our own half, and we restricted them with the defence that we had out there. We didn't concede too many chances. And if one of those bounces the right way, or one of those chances, Maddison's nestles in the far corner, or Brennan takes a shot, or Reguilon's shot gets turned into his own net like Dragoshin's did. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Like, if something goes our way, all of a sudden you're talking about a really great point under the circumstances. It didn't. Newcastle, especially in that first half, created the better chances. But I think in terms of the balance of play, and as well under the circumstances, I think we were worth the point in my opinion. But unfortunately, it just didn't happen. Yeah,
I do agree. Brandon Austin obviously gets his debut. Brilliant performance from him. I thought he looked commanding from crosses. I mean, they made a real effort, didn't they, to put him under so much pressure from every set piece that they got. And I think Spurs were doing well to protect him, but as well, he was doing really well to assert himself and pretty much catch a lot of the corners that came in.
Yeah, they kept putting it right under his throat. They kept doing what Arsenal do, put it right on the back post. And Austin was standing up to it every single time, whether it be a punch or he went and came and claimed it with a catch. Brilliant from him. And I think, obviously, shot-stopping wise, he made one save from Gordon, and then he made another save, I think, really late on from Barnes. Look, I don't think either of them were saves you don't expect him to make, but the saves that had to be made, they're both at the near post, and he did well to kind of rush and close the angles.
He was pretty flawless.
He was pretty flawless. I don't think he could have done anything with the goal. I think passing-wise, I think his passing was a bit hit and miss, I would say. I think there were some really good ones up to Solanke, but there was quite a few overhit ones and a few that he kind of rushed. I also think if you actually look at the first goal, could he have waited a tad longer just so Gray can get a bit wider? And he went, because once he passed it to Gray, he was immediately under pressure and it kind of rushed the move. And obviously that did lead to the handball. But, could he have just waited a minute or so, or not a minute, but, 10 seconds just to wait for Gray to get a bit wider so he's in a bit more space? I think that's the case. But, yeah, I think in general, considering it was his first debut for Tottenham after 10 years at the club, and considering that, he probably didn't know he was going to play probably up until yesterday, and it was all because of illness. And all those circumstances, I thought he did exceptionally well. And he should be very proud of his performance.
Absolutely. Man, the match display as well from Sky. He's been waiting for this moment for so long, Brandon Austin. I mean, forever, since I can remember, he's been at the club pretty much. 25 years of age. He's had various loan spells out in Sweden, and I don't know if maybe that was Whiteman, but out in MLS as well with Orlando. Never been given a chance. And even now, he gets his debut, and then the next day we sign a keeper to overstep him in the pecking order. But yeah, yesterday kind of did belong to him because of however long he's waited, gets his chance, and he actually flourished.
Must be nice of him. Nice for him to actually play a game of football.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially for his boyhood club. I think he's a Spurs fan as well. He came through our ranks. So, look, exceptional. Does it mean he's going to, have a career here? I think obviously don't know at this point, even though he played really well. But you've got to give him massive credit, especially in a difficult game against a difficult opponent, physical opponent as well. Well played to Brandon, and hopefully that performance means we don't mind putting him in more as much as beforehand. Clearly, we're very hesitant to do so.
Well, if Vicario and Kinski get injured again, we'll put him straight in there.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, look, as much as we were proud of the team, the way they fought yesterday, it was another loss, which leaves us down in 12th in the league on 24 points. It's just not a good situation. Palace are 15th on 21 points, so 3 points from 15th. Everton have a game in hand on us on 17, so
that's Liverpool, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Liverpool. Wolves have got a game in hand on us on 16,
That's
and Ipswich
Forest.
on 16. And Man U, obviously, today against Liverpool, they got a game in hand, which they're going to get battered today, but they're on 22 points, so they could actually go ahead of us. So we need to start picking up points pretty soon, because we're going to just keep slipping further down.
I think everyone knows that. I think the club know that. I think Ange knows that. But we need players. We need players. We need defenders. We need players back. He's trying his best, even in games where like the Wolves game where we probably should have won that game. We let it slip right at the last minute, probably because of the situation we're in. I don't. Again, I mean, I've been pretty consistent on it. Until we get players back, I don't see, especially with the games we have at the moment, it's going to be very hard for it to change and get points on the board until that situation changes. Obviously, after the Arsenal game. And then we have, I think it gets a bit easier when it comes to the fixture list.
Well, Everton away is a very hard game.
It's hard, but, it's not as hard as some of the other games we've had. So
after that, we got Leicester at home, Brentford away, which is also a very difficult game. Then Man U at home, Ipswich, Man City at home, Bournemouth at home, Fulham away.
Yeah, so it's not as difficult as the run we just had, which is obviously a very difficult run, especially in terms of hopefully in that run as well. We might have some new signings. We might have some players back from injury as well. So I do think we will start picking up points at that point. I think we're probably going to have to go through more pain at the Emirates, I'm assuming. And, we have to try and see if we can keep the game competitive on Wednesday in the Carabao in the first leg. Just try and get away with either a draw or a loss by one or whatever. Just give our all to try and keep that game going until Anfield. But then after Arsenal, hopefully at that point we can start picking up some consistent points. Unfortunately, the reality is we've dropped so far in this run. It's going to be difficult to claim anything back in this Premier League season right now because we've the games we've lost, and
I think our only chance of European football next year is to win a trophy. That's our only chance.
But I think I still believe that we have a good chance in these cups. I think we can be a good cup team. I think Europa League is still a good opportunity for us, and I still think Ange is the guy to take us to it. I still think Ange is the guy. From what I can see yesterday, the players are still with him. They're still fighting for him, and we're trying our best. I still think that we can win games once our players are back fit. And I, again, just don't see the point in sacking him right now. I don't see how that helps the situation, all that upheaval and bringing a new manager and starting a new cycle mid-season. I think we give him till the rest of the season. We see how it plays out. We assess it at the end of the season. If it's not worked and we, for one reason or another, we think he's not the right guy, then we change it then. But I think at this point, I just don't see the point in changing it.
The reality is, it doesn't look like they are going to change it. If it was up to me, I probably would. However, I don't hate Ange. When I'm at the stadium, I'll give him my full support. I'll sing his name. There's no doubt about it. I'll give him my full support. I don't hate the man. I just don't think he's the right man for the job.
How does changing him, you said you would, but how does it help right now, changing him?
Because what's happening now, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked since the first 10 games of last season. So, surely
that's
changing...
Not true, though.
But it is true.
It's not true.
It is, because when have we ever consistently won games?
Last season, there were periods where we consistently won games.
We've won back-to-back games 3 times since Ange has come in after the first 10 games of the season.
Last season, when he had that... he came in, we had that 10-game run. He then had the 5 losses after all those injuries we had. We started getting players back, and between game week 16 and game week 32, we were getting 2 points a game. We were consistently winning games. We won 10, drew 3, and lost 3. So we were consistent, actually. And everyone overlooks that because everyone just wants to focus on the 10 games. But we actually were pretty consistent in that run. And then we ended the season badly. Obviously, we had a very hard run and we were getting battered a lot. And that wasn't great, but that did happen. But everyone overlooks that period because I don't know why, but people don't like to think, because that was top 4 form we were showing at that point, and that's over 16 games. So I think people overlooked that we actually were good. Now this season,
but it was still like win draw win loss, win draw win loss.
Yes, it wasn't in a row, but it wasn't in a row, but it was still consistent over a 16-game run. 10, that's top 4 form. We were showing top 4 form over a 16-game run.
It was followed on in the crunch time of the season by consistent losses.
Yeah, but who were we playing? We played Liverpool, Arsenal, City. We played all the best teams, right? So it's those are the circumstances. Yeah, we were getting battered. Don't get me wrong; the performances weren't good, and it wasn't nice to see. But that is the truth as well. We were playing the best teams in the league at that point. It wasn't exactly like we had an easy run. But yeah, it wasn't great to see. It wasn't a good end to the season. Definitely right. Now this season, I do think we've been, in terms of the football we've played, I think in a lot of games there's been improvements. And I do think that a lot of the time it's worked. I think we concede less chances. I think for a lot of the games we actually were scoring more as well in a lot of these games. I think we were having a lot more control. And yes, there were stupid points dropped. Don't get me wrong. We're still a young team, and we still have to find that real consistency that top teams have. We're not a top team, clearly, and I think we still drop silly points and unnecessary points. But I also think that before the injury crisis, I think by and large, I'm not saying it was going perfectly or swimmingly, but it was going a lot better than it was now. And if we kept out that form, we'd be right in the mix for those European spots. And you have to add in that we had that, plus we added in Europe as well. And we actually went far in the Cups as of last season that we didn't. So all these extra games with the squad that we have, that also we didn't probably improve enough in the summer as well.
Probably.
Have led to the situation that we're in. So I think I'm happy to give him the time to sort it out. I don't think changing him right now helps anything, rather than just creates more instability and more uncertainty. And I think things will probably get even worse if
how much worse can they get?
They can get worse. Trust me. Look at United.
How much worse can they get?
It can get worse.
United are only 1-2 points below us.
Yeah, but it can get. They've gotten worse, haven't they?
Oh, you're saying if we bring in a new manager? I thought you said you're saying if we bring in a new manager, it'll get worse.
I said it could get worse. Yeah.
Oh, well,
as opposed to what?
I thought you meant it's going to get worse in general.
No, I'm saying if we sack him, I think it'll probably get worse, especially if we put an interim in charge. 100% it will get worse, in my opinion. I think the best course of action, stick with Ange.
I don't know how much worse it can get.
It can get worse.
We've won 2 games in the last 2 months. How much worse can it get?
There's circumstances around that.
But there's circumstances following every bit of bad form that Ange brings, and like, this happened to him at Celtic, this happened to him last season, it happened to this season. At what point are we going to sit here and say these things follow Ange around and it can't just be coincidence?
Look, his first season at Celtic, he had a bad injury. Not bad, but he had a few injuries. But the second season, it wasn't as bad. But this season, for some reason, look, I don't know. Look, even 1 year he picked up a muscle injury. Is that because he was being overplayed? I don't know what the situation is.
Yeah, but that's just one case. We're talking about a hefty case this season and last season at Spurs.
It might be because of Ange. It might be all his fault. Maybe Ange is just bound to pick up injuries and he's causing all of them. Maybe, but the players don't. If that was the case, I think the players would be a lot more unhappy with him, I would assume. They don't seem to be that unhappy with him.
We don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Well, they seem to be playing for him.
Yeah, they're professionals. They should be.
Well, I think we've seen many a time that doesn't happen. At Spurs as well and at other clubs. Many a time the players aren't happy with the manager, they won't play for him. And they will throw their toys out the pram. And that's not what's happening here. And players have spoken publicly about how much they enjoy playing under him.
But I just think that's even more of a red flag when you think the players are playing for the manager and they still can't get consistent results. No, we've been speaking...
Because they physically can't now.
Yeah, but they weren't doing it even before the injuries.
They were getting results. They weren't getting consistent.
But I said consistent results. Like we were
Yeah, but
losing
now
to
we're not getting any
Ipswich's and
results.
Crystal Palace. I get that. It's got a lot worse because of the injuries. But even before the injuries, it wasn't good enough. That's the reality.
It wasn't, yeah, it was a work in progress, but we were building towards something. I really believe that. And now at the moment, that's all fallen apart because of the injuries. Now, we weren't perfect, but I did see what we were building. I did see the good, really good stuff. And I did see the improvements we were making on last season. We were definitely making improvements on last season in terms of the football we played and what I was seeing. Unfortunately, that's gone completely out the window now because of what's happened. But I still
Some
believe...
of these injuries is because he's running players into the ground. He's running players into the ground. Cuti Romero, right? He played in the summer in the Copa, had about 45 minutes of pre-season, and then straight away starting every single game. Destiny Udogie had surgery on his quads, hardly had a pre-season, pretty much didn't have a pre-season, and then straight away starting every single game.
He was managing
Europa
that
League,
situation.
this,
no,
that,
he was taking
Europa
him
League.
off early. He was managing that. He was paying him for an hour, then he paid him for 70, then he gave him 90.
It wasn't enough though, was it? It wasn't enough because you've got Reguilon there and you've got Spence there, and he refused to play them.
He was being rotating. When we had a full squad, he was rotating.
Hardly.
He was. What do you mean? Europa League teams were very different from our Premier League teams. They were.
Not really, because
They
Udogie,
were.
every single time he tried to give him a rest, he had to come on after 10, 15 minutes. And then he failed to give him a rest in the Premier League.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying he's perfect. I don't think every injury is down to him, but yeah, I agree. There's valid criticism. I'm not saying all criticism is invalid. I'm just saying I'm not willing to sack him over these things. Right? I think there are definitely circumstances that he needs to improve on, and for sure he needs to improve on certain things. I'm not saying that some of the criticism is not invalid or not right, and you can criticize him, fair enough. And I think, you know, he deserves criticism in some aspects. I'm just not willing to sack him over those things necessarily. I think he can work those things out. I think maybe this run of form can show him that he can play Spence and Reguilon more, and maybe he'll start to do that.
Should have known that before
Yeah, okay,
all this
fine, but
happens, though. It's not
whatever.
just okay, fine, because it's
It
hurt
is
our
fine.
season.
Well, I think the amount of injuries is not just because of him. I don't think all these injuries are just down to him. A lot of them are not down to him as well. So it's not all his fault.
But the fullbacks are a very taxing position, right? In our system, in any system, but particularly in our system with the amount of running that they have to do. He needs to know that. And he needs to know that you've got other fullbacks there that you can use. And he neglected that massively this season. And it's put us in a really bad situation.
Yeah, but it's not the fullbacks. It's the centre backs that's really cost us. I think he has been rotating the centre backs. And I think that's the one that's really cost us.
Mickey van der Ven came back from a hamstring injury, and he got a hamstring injury in the very game he brought him back. And in that very game, in the post-match interview, he said he was a risk to play.
Yeah, because we just got Ben Davis injured the game before, so he made a judgment call. Obviously, he gets from the medical staff, right? He gets an assessment. They make the decision together. I don't think him bringing him back he just makes that decision by himself to bring him back. Obviously, he's the one who puts them on the team sheet, but I'm sure there's a conversation between him, the medical staff, and Van der Ven as well. Like, what will they want to do? If Van der Ven wants to play. And obviously, Van der Ven probably would have gone off earlier if it wasn't for Romero as well getting injured in that game. Look, he
went off after 80th minute or something. He said after the game that the plan was to play him 70 minutes. So he played 10 more minutes than he planned to play him that day.
I think 75th he went off and he was planned to play 70.
So 5 minutes. So 5 more minutes, right? Mm-hmm. He said after the game he was a risk to play. If you're any sort of risk with the problems that we're going through, you cannot risk it. You cannot risk it because it's going to hurt your season long term.
Well, it's easy to say that, but they made a judgment call. I don't know. I'm not.
And clearly, Ange is the one that makes the decision at the end of it. They would have known all the situations coming into it. Ange is the final decision maker, right? So Ange should be making a decision that errs on the side of caution when he knows the situation that we're in. And that's the reality.
And maybe you're right, and maybe that cost us for sure. But that's because he wanted to win the game, and that's because he was trying to get the points. And a lot of if he would have rested him and we would have lost, people would have said, "Oh, I don't think anyone would have given him any grace for having Van der Ven on the bench for that game." If they would have said, if he's fit enough to play, you play him. They would have said that. And you still would have criticised him. So I get it. He risked it, and it went against him. But again, I'm willing to give him the time to turn it around, and I think he can turn it around. And I think we can start winning games again once we get our players back. And I don't think all the injuries are down to him.
All right, let's move on. That is the match review. We've got a couple of super chats to get through. Just give me a second. First one is from Michael Hellman. Says Fonseca is available. AC Milan just fired him. I mean, if who was the one that wanted Fonseca? Was it?
Paratici.
It was Paratici, wasn't it? Artist T says, if or when we lose to Tamworth, Sim will blame the pitch or the weather, not Ange. He'll say not even Pep or Klopp would beat them.
Tamworth's a different aspect.
If we lose to Tamworth, would you want him sacked?
Probably, yeah. If we lose to Tamworth, yeah, I think we can't be losing to Tamworth.
And Jaden says Sim will try and change the channel name to We Are Ange TV.
I just don't see how sacking him changes anything right now. I think if anything, it'll make it worse. I think, in my opinion.
All right, let's get into player ratings. 2-1 loss to Newcastle. First up, we're going to look at Brandon Austin. First ever rating on this channel. 8 all round for Brandon.
I think from a friendly.
Did we rate him in that friendly? I think, yeah, probably did. Yeah, you're right. A competitive game rating, let's say. 8 all round for Brandon. And yeah, like I said before, I thought he was pretty much flawless. I thought commanding his box really well. Yeah, I mean, his throws, over the top throws, were a bit questionable. But yeah, look, I thought he dealt with the majority of challenges that came his way, and I was really happy with him and really happy to see him on the pitch after 9 long years of waiting.
Yeah, he did very well. Fair play to him. I think coming in after so long out in the cold, 78 match day squads he'd been in before this game without making an appearance, and he came in and did extremely well. Made a couple of really good saves for the near post. I think the biggest kind of aspect of improvement was his coming for crosses and his ability to pluck crosses out the air. Extremely impressive. And his ball playing ability, a bit hit and miss, but it was all right as well. So fair play to Brandon. Brilliant performance and deserves a lot of credit.
Next up, Pedro Porro. 8 all round for Pedro. My man the match. I think he was Spurs' best player and most dangerous player on the day. Really using the ball with quality, floating those balls in. Brilliant assist in the first few minutes as well for Dom Solanke. And I thought defensively as well. I thought, Anthony Gordon did get a bit of space on that left-hand side or our right-hand side, but I thought for the most part, I thought he did really well. So I was happy with Pedro yesterday. Much, much improved display than what we've seen in recent weeks.
Yeah, and I think there's no coincidence he gets a week break and he looks a lot better. I thought actually he dealt with Gordon fairly well. I know Gordon obviously scored a goal, had one other chance as well, but obviously the goal that he scored, I don't think you can put on Porro. I think it's obviously we were caught out by the handball and they played it very quickly. And obviously the other chance was also on the counter-attack. But I thought in general, he was our most creative outlet. He was the one creating chances for his teammates. He was the one stretching the pitch as well. I thought his passing was fantastic. I thought his cross for Solanke was absolutely on the money. It was brilliant. And actually defensively, he made some really good tackles on Gordon and was actually really, really impressive. I thought in the one-on-one times that Gordon was taking him on, I thought he did really well. So fair play.
Radu Dragusin up next. Him gives him a 4. I gave him a 3. I mean, he was the clear weak link in the back line. I thought on the ball left little to be desired about. I thought it was really frustrating. I mean, I've said that about Radu Dragusin constantly, pretty much since he's come in. I think his ability on the ball is very, very frustrating. And I thought he should have dealt with a few situations a lot better, particularly the one where they scored. I just think he was slow to react.
Yeah, clearly suffering with the... he was clearly suffering with the illness and clearly wasn't fully fit and clearly was kind of got out of bed and tried to couple it together performance. I thought on the ball, horrendous, just passing out of play without any pressure on him and really struggled off the ball, off the pace. I thought by and large couldn't really pick up Isak a lot of the time, and we actually got a lot better when he went off. So that's poor, unfortunately. But I don't want to criticise him because, playing with the week he's had, I'm sure it was very difficult.
Yeah, but another player that was playing with the week he had was Archie Gray, and Sim gives him a 6 and I gave him a 7, and I thought he stood up for the team and to scrutiny a lot better than his counterpart in Radu Dragusin. I can't praise this Archie Gray enough. 18 years of age, central midfielder, whatever position you ask him to play, and now he's consistently been playing at centre-back now, and I think he's been probably consistently over this period our best player. I think I just can't praise this guy enough. He's so calm and composed on the ball. Defensively, I think he's winning duels in the air quite regularly, and I'm just loving what I'm seeing from him. And this guy is going to be a top player for us.
Yeah, 100%. And the way he has stepped in this period has been nothing short of exceptional, especially in this game as well. I thought, look, unfortunately, he did keep Isaac onside for the goal. That's probably a positioning issue, and not.
He's done that quite a few times actually.
Yeah, it's not the first time he's done that. And look, again, I'm not going to criticise him too much. He's not a natural centre-back. I thought his partnership with Spence was quite good. I thought him positionally was really effective, and then Spence was kind of mopping up with his pace. So I thought they complemented each other really well. So fair play to him. I thought he did really well with on the situation yesterday. Unfortunately, his position kept Isaac on side though.
Left back, Jed Spence. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 6. I thought he really struggled at left back in the first half to deal with Jacob Murphy. Murphy just kept getting the better of him on a regularity. And I think that's where a lot of Newcastle got their joy in the first half. However, second half, he moves to centre back and we're all fearing the worst. But I thought he did a lot better at centre back than he did at left back. I did think he brought his way out of trouble a couple of times where he bought a few fouls and stuff where he was under pressure. But yeah, it didn't really hurt us too much. So I thought he was a lot better in the second half than he was in the first.
Yeah, first half I thought he did really strong against Jacob Murphy. I thought Murphy, and on the ball as well, I didn't think he was using it well. I thought Murphy really had the beating of him, was able to get those crosses in too often across the face of goal, and Isaac should have had a couple of goals. He got one. But once he was a centre back, I thought he actually really improved and really helped shore up the back line. I thought his pace really helped contain Isaac. And I thought on the ball looked really, really confident. So fair play to him. Did really, really well, Jed Spence.
Pape Matar, 6 all round for Pape. And, you know, with a week's rest, I really expected a bit better from Pape because we know that with rest and, you know, with games off, I know it wasn't a game off, but it was, you know, a longer rest than we've seen in previous weeks for Pape. He usually puts in that unreal performance, but we didn't get that. But I still think we got a good level of performance where, you know, he was running around, he was buzzing around, he was taking shots off, and, you know, he had 2 shots on target, I think, just in the first half, mainly from, you know, far out. But he was a threat. But I felt like, yeah, it just wasn't imposing himself as much as maybe he has done in the past.
Yeah, I think he was busy, and I think, again, the midfield three of Newcastle really struggled, I think, in general to kind of dominate that area. Obviously, his running power really helped and really made sure that we weren't getting too exposed, or be at that period that we were getting quite exposed. His shot did lead to Brennan Johnson hitting the post as well, so that was a good effort. And he had another shot in the first half, which went right down the keeper's throat, so it was taking some efforts. But in general, in terms of really offering enough to really dominate that bit of the pitch, he just wasn't there, unfortunately, but it's difficult.
Lucas Bergvall, Sim gives him a 7, I gave him an 8. Lasted, I think it was an hour. Yeah, just over an hour. And yeah, I thought he was brilliant, man. I really did. First half, I thought he was struggling with the physicality of Joe Linton, but he was still finding moments of quality. He linked up well with Pedro Porro for the goal in the first 3 minutes. And I just love, first of all, his tenacity. I think he wins a lot of duels and even aerial duels as well. For someone of 18-year-old in the central midfield against such an aggressive Newcastle middle three, I think it's so impressive, man. It really is. But then on the ball, he just shows calmness. He shows quality. The way he spreads his pass, his weight of pass, I think he's just such a good player, man. And again, like Archie Gray, he's going to be a massive player for us in the future.
Definitely. And this is another kind of coming-of-age kind of performance for Bergvall, I felt, in general, because playing against that midfield three of Newcastle it's always going to be a daunting prospect. And I thought he just competed so well on the ball. There was that moment, the moment for the first goal, the way he glides past Joe Linton was something to behold. He got really unlucky with the equaliser, obviously, where the Joe Linton handball. Maybe was guilty of not playing it to Decky, though, when he could have, instead of trying to find Porro and maybe pick the wrong pass. But I thought there were times where obviously Joe Linton was going to bully him, and that was always going to happen. There was also times where he was winning headers. He was actually competing really well, and I thought his weight of pass is brilliant. There was one pass he played from the centre circle. He did an unbelievable switch out to Brendan Johnson, and Brendan just didn't think there was going to be that perfect, the ball, and he was so perfect he didn't even read it.
And bang on the money every time.
Bang on the money. He's just got an unbelievable switch of play. Bergvall, sorry, unbelievable switch of play. And I thought his passing was brilliant, really gaining an influence as the game went on. Unfortunately, went off on the hour, but I think it was the right decision despite his influence in the game. But I thought he showed more than enough that he should be playing a lot more in the Premier League.
And the fans' reaction to him going off just shows how well he played yesterday.
Absolutely.
Decky next. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 6. It wasn't the Decky that we know and love that we've seen all season. It wasn't a terrible or bad performance by any stretch of the imagination, but with the captain's armband, I expected him to take more authority on the pitch, and I don't think maybe it's just because he's been running the ground, but with a week's rest since our last game, I really did expect to see that physical, commanding Decky, and I just don't think we saw that. He did create a few chances during the game, 4 key passes on the day, and 6 duels, 1 out of his 13 contested. But I just felt like it was a level below for what we've seen Decky all season.
Yeah, I think he struggled to get away from the likes of Joel Linton and Tonali and Guimaraes in the middle. They were definitely crowding him out and targeting him whenever he got the ball, and he did struggle with influence at times. I thought when he got into the penalty box, I actually thought he was quite good, and he picked out some really good moments and did create a couple of chances. But I think outside the box, he was just making loose touches. He was getting shoved off the ball, and unfortunately, just wasn't able to impact the game like he usually does. But on another day, if Johnson takes his shot instead of just putting it across the face of goal, he might have an assist to his name. So it wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't his best game.
Yeah, Brennan Johnson, 4s all round for Brennan. Yeah, I mean, he just doesn't impact games, Brennan, and it really frustrates me because you need someone, particularly with the possession that we had in the second half, you need someone to really, properly have a go at them. And I know he found himself in some good positions, which he usually does, and that's a credit to him. But on a general basis, he just doesn't impact games enough. And I think his decision-making, particularly yesterday, was a bit off. You have that chance that he has when you see the goal gaping in front of him. Take a shot, man. You've got the quality. We've seen it all season. You've scored 11 goals. I don't know whether it was a shot or whether it was a cross, but maybe it was just caught in 2 minds, and it was
just... The fact you don't know is a problem.
Yeah, exactly. And that one where he hit the post, he was never going to score from there. So, dink it into the back post or something. Cut it back to Solanke or someone. But again, he takes the shot, and I think it was just out of panic more than anything. And he was never going to score from there, and it hit the outside of the post.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I thought Lewis Hall really contended with him really well. The amount of times he tried to make a yard for himself to get a cross in and just wasn't able to do it, and his cross got blocked every single time. Very, very frustrating. He's got to do a lot better at that. Obviously, there was one really good run in the first half where he ran through 3 Newcastle players, cut it back to Deck, who laid it off for Solanke, and his shot was blocked. So that was a good moment. And then he obviously did hit the post. It was always going to be very difficult to score from there. I think the one person we need in that position is Jamie Donnelly. Looking at the this weekend's evidence, he did score from that kind of angle, but Johnson hit the post, unfortunately. It was always going to be difficult. And then he had his big moment where he's got to be firing that in the far corner. Johnson has been doing that all season, that kind of finish, firing it into the far corner. And for one reason or another, I don't know if he dragged it or don't know if there was a part of his mind who thought, actually, I'm going to go for Solanke here. But either way, it went nowhere near anyone, and it was a terrible finish, and he just has to be belting that. Could have even fired it into the roof of the net if he wanted to. There was enough of the goal there. So very disappointing. That was probably our best chance of the second half, and he wasted it. And then in general play, when he wasn't getting chances, he was really struggling to create.
Timo Werner, 3s all round for Timo. Just a carbon copy of what we've seen from Timo in recent weeks. Pretty much nothing to go on. Every time he got the ball on the left-hand side, he seemed to lose it. Couldn't use his pace to give us any sort of advantage. He attempted 3 crosses on the day, none of them accurate, and I don't think he was physical enough to win his duels as well. So, another poor performance.
Yeah, what can I say about him? Just terrible. Livramento probably has had an easier game this season. Can't remember too many times he even took him on. The other times he did win a few corners, but that was probably the best he got for him. Don't remember any kind of chances created, any crosses, any dribbles. He did kind of, worked hard a bit, but still they were getting him down that right-hand side anyway. Our left-hand side, sorry. So, yeah, terrible, I would say. Terrible.
And then the last of the starting 11, Big Dom Solanke. 7s all round for Big Dom, and he was our biggest threat on the day. I thought he was, non-stop running, physical, hustle and bustle of the game. If anyone was going to get more goals, it was going to be him. Brilliant header in the first 3 minutes from a pinpoint cross from Pedro Porro. Had another one, which was a harder one, probably in the second half, which went straight into the keeper's arms. But yeah, look, he was a constant threat. He was dropping deep. He was trying to knit the play together as well. Just a constant thorn, I thought, in Newcastle's side. It's just a shame that the other attackers weren't really on his wavelength.
Yeah, the only problem I would say is there was maybe too many occasions where he maybe didn't protect the ball enough in the centre of the pitch when Austin went straight towards him. And that was, put us in a bit of trouble sometimes. But I thought overall, the goal he scored was brilliant. The way he battled past Botman, held him off and headed it into the far corner, brilliant. he was definitely our biggest threat when crosses were being swung in by Porro in that second half. He was the one looking most likely to make something happen. Also think his play with his back to goal inside the penalty area is exceptional. That pass lay off to Decky, which set up the chance for Brendan, was absolutely fantastic. And I want to see more of us doing that, playing those low passes into him and him setting up chances. So I thought a really strong performance from him up against two very physical defenders in Byrne and Botman, and I thought he did really well.
Now to the subs. Reguilon came on at half time for Radu Dragusin, moved over to left back. He moved over to left back, and Jed Spence came into centre back. And we give him 7s each for Sergio Reguilon. Big up to Sergio, because it's hard to come in completely out the cold, barely played any football all season, and he comes in against a really strong Newcastle side, and he shored up that left-hand side, because Jacob Murphy was getting in quite a lot, and barely saw Jacob Murphy in the second half. So that's a big credit to Sergio Reguilon. I felt he was getting up and down, showing good energy levels on that side of the pitch. Going forward, I think it was there was a bit of a lack of quality. There was one moment where he puts in a cross, and it just goes like flying over the bar, and then he turns around to the crowd and he's like, come on, come on. It just made me laugh with Sergio, and that's the kind of passion that he does bring to the team. And I do hope that even if he's not going to be here past this season, I do hope we do see him a bit more, because as much as he's not in the plans, as much as Ange doesn't rate him and he wants to leave, he does have a little bit of quality about him.
Well, he's got pace, that's for sure. He's always had that. He's always had that ability to be a bit of a bull in a china shop on the pitch and just run around and cause a nuisance of himself. It also ends up getting caught out of position a lot. But in terms of how we play, obviously the inverted role probably won't suit him. But I also think the pressing stuff probably he would kind of like all that running around, I would say. He did well. Credit to him. I thought he got up and down the pitch well, but he kind of made sure Jacob Murphy wasn't getting the kind of advantages he was. He was setting up. He did play one good ball into Solanke for the chance that we did have, and that was kind of nice pass. But in terms of his final delivery, obviously he had that big moment where he put it across the face of goal. No one was there to tap it home. I thought the quality was a bit missing in the final third from him. But credit to him, because, as you say, he'd been out in the cold, came in and put in a good performance that for second 45 minutes.
Yves Bissouma up next, 7s all round for Biss. And yeah, I thought he came on with some good energy in the middle of the park. I thought he added some extra energy. He was winning the ball back quite regularly. And really good challenges and sliding challenges in the middle to set us up on attacks. And I think he added something that we desperately needed in that moment in the game. Yeah,
I think he added energy. I think actually we competed a lot better in that centre once he was on. We started to dominate all of a sudden. He was making some really good challenges on Joel Linton and Bruno Guimaraes, and also looked a lot more confident on the ball, striding forward. Made a couple of bad decisions with his passing, but I thought in general the way he was striding forward and attacking the space in that second half was very, very positive and made a really good impact on the game. So well played, Biss.
James Maddison came on as well with half an hour to go. 7s all round for Madders, and another one that was ill all week and barely trained. And I feel he came on again with a bit of attacking authority, and it looked like if we were going to do something, it was going to come through him. He was getting on the ball a lot. He had that one shot that just curled just past the post. I mean, if it goes in, it's a complete wonder goal, but it was a top effort from him. And yeah, I felt like he just showed some good intent.
Yeah, and he played some really beautiful passes in behind to Son as well on the left-hand side. Some really good kind of in-swinging passes from that in left position. And brilliant. He was. I thought some of his passing was fantastic. I thought we looked a lot more likely to score when he was on the pitch. I thought he was making some really good passes into the box. And unfortunately, look, some of his passes should have been rewarded better, and they weren't. And I thought that shot as well, inches away from in the far post, and some good free kick deliveries as well, which maybe someone should have got on the end of. So good cameo, I thought, from Madders.
And last but not least, Son Heung-min, 5s all round. Look, he came on for Timo Werner, and I think he provided more than Timo did on that left-hand side. And he was quite aggressive. He was winning his duels. One key pass on the day for Sonny, but unfortunately, I thought he was probably, in terms of impact, probably the worst of the subs that came on, and do expect a bit more from Sonny.
Yeah, I think he was better than Werner. I think he provided a bit more, was a bit more of a threat in behind, and was asking different questions of Newcastle. But unfortunately, when he got into those positions, he wasn't able to provide that killer instinct we know he can, or that killer kind of that effectiveness in the final thirds. He just didn't have it. I don't know. And you expect him to get the ball a bit more, take Livramento on, put Cross in the box. He just wasn't doing it enough. So unfortunately, it just wasn't the best cameo again from Sonny.
And last but not least, Ange Postecoglou, 6s all round for Big Ange. And look, everyone expected a complete battering coming into this game. That's the reality. I saw predictions of 7-1, 6-1, whatever you want to say. And with everything going into it, with all the injuries that we have, plus the illness that he had to contend with barely any players training coming into the week, I did feel a lot for Ange in this game. And I thought, apart from the 25-minute period where Newcastle created a lot of chances and definitely dominated us and probably should have, well, that period did win them the game. Apart from that period, I thought Spurs played really well. We started the game well, took the lead, and in the second half as well, dominated the game and should have created a lot more than we did. So I thought Ange managed the game well. He made the changes at half-time as well to keep those energy levels up. It's just unfortunate that we couldn't take more from the game from a few players just underperforming on the day. And look, I got to give him the credit where it's due. However, the form is nowhere near good enough. 2 wins in the last 2 months. And Ange has got to take the blame. And however much the team and the players made us somewhat proud yesterday, we still lost the game. And he's got to get marked down for that.
Yeah, I feel for him. I think he mustered off as good as a performance that we could ever have imagined in the current circumstances with the illness and injuries and all these different things up against a rampant Newcastle team off the back of 5 wins in a row and are really shooting up the league at the moment, who have got most of their players there. So it was a very, very difficult circumstances. And look, we took the lead and we played well. Again, we got robbed with that, in my opinion, with that handball when it shouldn't have been given. And I think he will rightly feel aggrieved with that. And I think he got a lot out of these players yesterday in a situation where it looked like all was lost. Unfortunately, wasn't enough to get any points, and it wasn't enough to get us over the line. And I think the subs were well timed as well. I thought the subs made an impact. I thought even the way he changed it, a lot of people calling for Dorrington that second half, but I thought Spence came in and did well. So I thought that was probably a correct decision as well. So I thought we did a lot of good decisions yesterday, but unfortunately, just came up against a Newcastle team who were very good at defending, in great form, and even in the circumstances, we just couldn't get any points, and it's just really unfortunate. But I think he's still got the players with him. I think that was evidence of that yesterday, and I think I think it's just unfortunate we're in the situation we're in. We're trying our best to get points, and he's trying his best. And I think the way he played yesterday probably got us into a situation where we could have got points yesterday under the circumstances, but wasn't to be.
And that is our player ratings for the 2-1 loss against Newcastle. Moving on, we're going to go to the 5 takeaways and see what 5 things we can learn from the game. And number 1 is patient Austin.
Yeah, Brandon Austin yesterday absolutely had to wait a long time for that chance yesterday. Brandon Austin, 10 years, 78 match day squads without making a single appearance yesterday for Brandon Austin, and making his debut at the age of 25? Was he 26 now? Absolutely incredible. In terms of his numbers, 2 out of 2 run-outs outside the box. He was actually playing a lot higher than Forster does. 2 saves inside the box. 4 out of 4 aerial duels won, so that's 4 out of 4 high claims from Brandon Austin as well. So really good when it came to coming for crosses. Passing was only 4 out of his long passes complete, and actually went long a lot more than Forster and Vicario do. So 13 long passes was definitely. I don't know if that was instruction from Ange saying you can go. I'm giving you a bit more permission to go long or not, but that was the case. But yeah, after such a long wait, had to be patient, but the patience paid off.
Yeah, finally. I don't know how many more times we're going to see him in a Spurs shirt, but I do expect him, after the new keeper coming in, to still be our 3rd choice keeper, having recently just signed a 5-year contract. And look, it's the guy that bleeds blue and white, because how many players are just going to stick around their whole career just to be a 3rd choice keeper? Yeah. And that's pretty much what he's done. He's been at Spurs since he was 15, 16 years of age, and all this time just waiting for this moment. And it's come, and he passed the test with flourishing colours. So it's great to see that we've got a 3rd choice keeper of that high quality, to be honest. And, it begs the question, like, after that performance, do you feel like we should have been playing him over Forster?
Based on that performance, potentially. Obviously, Forster's the more experienced keeper, and Forster has done well in part. But obviously, those are games where he's cost us with the ball at his feet for sure. And maybe Austin showed he's a bit more comfortable in that aspect of the game.
More mobile as well.
Yeah, a bit more mobile, gets out of his box a bit more than Forster. So I think there's a case for it based on, but it's only one game, isn't it? You know, if I asked you that based off some performances Forster was playing earlier when he came in, you know, maybe we wouldn't be saying this.
Yeah, that's also true. But look, brilliant from Brandon. And yeah, he deserves all the credit that he gets coming his way after the game yesterday. Number 2 is Precise Porro.
Yeah, and what a brilliant cross that was for Pedro Porro for the goal. And look, that follows on, I think, the last couple of games, much improved display from Pedro Porro. And I think, in fact, in general, defensively and offensively, a much better performance from him. 5 tackles, 5 out of 6 ground duels won as well. He was 3 clearances, 1 block shot, 1 last man tackle as well. And his crossing, 2 out of 8 crosses were accurate, which I don't understand how that can be, because he got 1 for the goal, and then I definitely remember 2 he made, which Solanke definitely got on the end of. So it must be at least 3 crosses there. So I don't know how it says 2, but it says 2 key passes as well. And obviously he got that assist, and that assist actually takes him this season to 6 goal contributions now. And considering, you know, for a fullback. You know, we were saying he's not maybe getting as many goal contributions as he was getting last season, but he's got 6 already now this season, which is not a bad total for a fullback.
What did he get last season?
Maybe 10 overall.
I'm just checking it. So, yeah, he's got 4 assists and 2 goals. Where, I mean, he's had 3 assists in quite quick succession, hasn't he? He got 1 from the corner when Bentancur scored. I think there was another one from a corner as well. And then this one where he got 1 on the first game of the season, I think it was. Pedro Porro.
He scored.
Oh, he scored first game of the season, but he got 1 early on, I think. But yeah, last year he got 10. So he is creeping up on that. But I hope
he's over halfway there.
Yeah, and there's halfway of a season to go.
I guess, yeah, true.
So yeah, you would still expect him to better last season, where he's probably on track to probably just equal it.
Which is not bad. I mean, 10 goal contributions a season from a fullback is a good total.
Yeah, true. But you just expect people to get more season on season.
Not necessarily. I think 10's a good total. I mean, that means that implies in 3 seasons he'll be getting like 20 goal contributions.
Yeah, he should be.
Yeah,
Trent levels.
Trent, I mean, how many goal contributions he got this season?
This season, let's have a look. I think less.
He's got 5, so he's got more than Trent.
Yeah, but I mean, Trent has it in him to get 9, 12 assists in the season. You know what I mean?
So does Porro. He got 7 last year.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, 10 a season. I don't think you can expect much more than that from a full. Look, he's capable of it, but I think.
But
10
particularly in the way we play our fullbacks, when they're pretty much playing as number 10s for the majority of it, you'd expect them to get more than maybe usual.
I think. Yeah, I just think 10's fine. I think if your fullback is getting 10 goal contributions, that's a good total.
Number 3 is Reguilon's unexpected cameo.
Yeah, coming on at half time. Very impressive from Sergio Reguilon. Obviously, a big surprise considering, you know, even though we had players out, you know, Reguilon coming on at half time with drag machine going off where everyone's wondering what was going on. But he actually had a really good cameo, and credit to him. In terms of the numbers, he had 7 out of 9 ground duels won. 3 out of 5 aerial duels won, 3 tackles, 2 interceptions, only dribbled past once as well. No key passes on the day, unfortunately. None of his 3 crosses were completed. Did complete one of his 1 dribbles. Did have 55 touches, but defensively was actually a really good cameo from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very impressed and very pleased with him, because a player that's been out in the cold, a player that we should have been using more over the course of the season. He gets his chance to play 45 minutes, and I think he passed the test. So happy for Reguilon, and I just hope he gets more chances now to ease the burden on some of the other players in the squad. So look, he's not going to be here past this season. We all know that. So let's use him while he's here. And number 4 is going to be Bergvall passes the test.
Yeah, and a big test yesterday for Bergvall. So he had his first test in the Premier League against Southampton and was very comfortable in that game, or in the 5-0 win. But obviously coming up against Joel Linton, Tonali, Guimaraes, it was going to be a very difficult test for him. And I thought he passed it yesterday, and such an extent that the fans were booing his substitution when he went off. In terms of the numbers, 3 out of 4 ground duels won, 1 out of 1 aerial duels won, 3 clearances, 2 block shots, 2 interceptions, 1 tackle. It does say 1 error that led to a goal, but obviously that was the handball. 3 out of 5 long passes completed, 82% passing accuracy as well. So I thought he competed really well in the middle, up against under really difficult circumstances, and I thought he really put himself about. I thought he was starting to really make an impact in the game that second half as well before he got taken off. So really impressive display from Lucas Bergvall.
Yeah, and against one of the most physical midfielders in the Premier League, you're looking at Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, and Sandro Tonali, 3 of them very aggressive players, particularly Joe Linton. And look, he did brilliantly. And that shows at the age of 18, coming from the Swedish league like that, and your second start in the Premier League, that is such impressive stuff to do. And his quality on the ball sets him apart from a lot of players as well. So he's just going to keep growing in a Spurs shirt. So impressed with him. And I think he's backing up all the claims that, when we signed him, everyone said, how good this guy's going to be. We're seeing it in front of our very eyes now for Lucas Bergvall. So he's going to keep going on strength to strength in this second half of the season, in my opinion. And fifth and final takeaway is fair and equal.
Yeah, and Ange, obviously that was the phrase he kind of was using a lot in his post-match interviews. And in fact, in his post, the stats that say in his post-match interview in Match of the Day, he said the words "fair and equal," the term "fair and equal" 9 times in that post-match interview, in what was quite a fiery, pumped-up Ange Postecoglou in that post-match interview. So he was demanding that if everything was fair and equal, he would have won that game. That was what he was saying. And he used that term kind of a lot to suggest that. So, look, I can understand his frustrations. We did have a lot of things go against us. Joel Linton could have been sent off. Dan Burn could have been sent off. They could have had a goal ruled out for handball as well, plus all the circumstances going into it with injuries and flu and all that kind of stuff. So, a lot did go against us that contrived for us to lose the game. But do you agree if everything was fair and equal, we would have won?
Yeah, probably, because Joe Linton and Dan Burn both would have been sent off. So we would have been playing against 9 men. So I do think we would have won against 9 men. I share his frustrations. I do. No, there's no but to it. I just share his frustrations because Newcastle were super aggressive yesterday and they were just constantly fouling, constantly on us. And this is like a hallmark and staple of this Newcastle team over the last couple of years, just so aggressive, constantly making fouls, and a lot of the time don't get punished for them. So maybe Ange Postecoglou has alerted the authorities of it now, and maybe they'll start getting punished a bit more. But yeah, very frustrating yesterday, but is what it is. Another loss on the table for Tottenham Hotspur, which makes it 10 losses in the season this year. But that is our 5 takeaways. Those are the 5 things we learned from the game. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And we've got a super chat here from Lazy8 saying, I know it's only been 1 game, but would you consider dropping Forster from the Europe squad to make way for Spence or a new signing? I would. Now that
Brandon... We're going to have to.
Yeah, but even so, even if you don't bring Kinski into the Europe squad, would you prefer Kinski or Jed Spence in the European squad for the next part of it? I would prefer Jed Spence.
Well, considering Vicario might be back by then. Then again, so Doggy's probably going to be back. But
you've also got Brandon there as well.
Brandon's also there. I guess it depends. If we sign a fullback, I don't know where that leaves Jed even. But
yeah, but I'm just saying on the face of things now, would you prefer Kinski or Jed Spence in the European squad for the
probably Spence? Probably Spence.
Surely it's got to be Spence. Surely. But anyway, let's move on and let's go to the last segment of the stream.
By the way, Ipswich leading Fulham at Craven Cottage here, 1-0.
Which puts them 6 points behind us.
It does.
So we want Fulham to win, really.
Well, Ipswich are winning.
But anyway, let's move on to to reacts. We're going to see how the internet did react to the game yesterday. And first and foremost, we're going to look at one of our own doing bits at Leyton Orient at the moment. Absolute bits. Look at this goal. Sean Slater, big up to Sean, Jamie Donnelly's #1 fan. Look at this angle from this goal. Oh, beautiful. That is class. That is class. And He's really
games.
3 goals in 4 games, and he's really growing in this Leighton
And 2
Orient
assists as
side.
well, I think.
Yeah, and on top of that,
They knocking on the door.
8 clean sheets in his last 9 games or something like that.
Incredible. If only Johnson could take some finishing lessons of Donnelly with that.
I think Johnson's was even tighter than that. The angle.
Potentially, but I don't know how he squeezed it in. To be honest, Donnelly, it's unbelievable. Maybe poor keeping, but brilliant finish from Donnelly, and he's just in great form and he's just in confident mood at the moment.
Yeah, and Josh Keeley has really turned around Leighton Orient season since scoring that goal in the last minute in the cup. Before that, they weren't really anywhere in the league. Like, they were on pretty poor form, and now, since that game, so it was against Oldham, they've won 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of their last 9 games.
Wow.
And in the league,
And only conceded 1 goal.
Yep, and in the league, they are really pushing the playoff spots to get into the championship next season.
Incredible.
So if they do get promoted, right, do you send Jamie
there.
Donnelly and Keeley back there next season?
I would.
Yeah. All right, well, big up to Sean and big up to Jamie Donnelly. Next up is James Redmond. Says, don't get the Postecoglou slander. One of the worst injury crises I've seen, and people expect consistency. I still think he's a good manager. And before you talk about the high line, either you lose 1-0 or you lose 3-2 or 5-3.
He's a Liverpool fan, Redmond.
Yeah.
That's his take.
Yeah, would he take him? Would he take him at Liverpool? I doubt it. But look, I get what you're saying about the injury crisis and the consistency during the injury crisis, but we never had consistency before the injury. So I think that has to be taken into account as well.
Yeah, but we weren't losing every game as well.
Yeah, I know we weren't. But we still never had consistency.
Well, there were times.
All right, fine. It's fair to say we weren't showing relegation form.
There we go.
If that is a good enough thing to keep yourself in a Spurs job, then I don't know what we're doing here.
No, we were winning games, and we were playing good football, and things were. I think we were building something.
But even before the injury crisis, we were still sitting here and saying we've lost way too many games at this point.
Yeah,
in
and I
this
was critical
season.
of him. I was critical of him, but I could still see. We were still willing to give it time, and I can still see where we were heading, and that could easily have turned. I think there were some games where we didn't win that we deserved to win, but we didn't. I don't think there was any win we had, right, that we didn't deserve to win. We weren't getting any lucky wins. All the wins we had, we deserved. There were some stupid games, but we were still right in the mix for Europe, and now we've dropped like a clip. And maybe that would have turned differently if it wasn't for this crisis.
All right, next up is Richard Holmes saying Johnson didn't hit the target from here. And when you look at that snapshot,
look at that. How's he
look
not
at that
scoring
snapshot.
here?
Just bury that in the bottom corner, man.
He could hit it far post. He could even smash it near post as well into that top corner. Look how close he is. I mean, that's Johnson's position right there. I don't know what he's thinking, how he's not scoring that. Got to be scoring that, Brennan.
Ben Bowman next saying heads on Mars again, responding to your tweet yesterday. So I let people want to hear the tweet from the original owner, so you can read it out yourself.
Says originally I thought the letter of the law there is a case for this to stand as it was accidental, but on further inspection he clearly moves his hand towards the ball, blocking the path of the pass. This is deliberate handball. I think here, as you can see, he's got his hand behind his back. He then moves his hand in to block the pass, in my opinion, towards the ball, and I think that should constitute deliberate handball if you're blocking the pass.
Yeah, but that's also a deliberate snapshot. Like, you don't see the running action really in that snapshot.
I've got it from when he passes it, and he stops running. Actually, you can see here he actually stops running just as he passes the ball.
Yeah, but you can't just stop your arms like that when you stop running.
Also, you put his arm in front of the ball.
But that's how you run, like that.
You run like that, not like this.
He's not like that.
Yeah, look, his hand's behind his back, and then he moves it in way of the pass. Look, he moves it towards the ball.
In that angle, it does look like that, but in every other angle, it just looks like he's normally running.
That's the most accurate angle.
I think it's very deliberate, that snapshot.
What's deliberate about it? That's the best angle to see. You see everything. You see where his hand is before, where his hand moves towards. You see when Bergvall passes it.
I just feel that is natural what he's doing.
Look, it might be, but you don't. As I'm saying, I think there's a kind of an unspoken rule in football where if you move your hand towards the ball, it counts as deliberate because you're going towards the ball, and you don't know the intent of the player in most aspects. If you keep it there and it just hits it, obviously that's different. But if you actually actively move your hand towards the ball and you block the path, he's literally blocking the path of the pass when he moves his hand in front of the ball. I think that should count as deliberate if you're doing that, in my opinion.
All right, next up is JIP saying Jamie Donnelly doing Jamie Donnelly things, and that's just another angle of the goal yesterday. Brilliant stuff from Jamie. This one, Emily Damari on the screens yesterday. Next up after that is Lily White Rose. The two handballs yesterday, this one from Joe Linton and from Dan Byrne.
Yeah, and I think Dan Byrne should have been booked, and I think Joe Linton goal should have been ruled out.
Lucas.
And one was given, one wasn't. Yeah, it's true. Look at that.
And the one that was given, need to be given a booking for that.
Yeah, agreed.
Lucas says, I don't think any of us truly fathom just how lucky we got with Archie Gray and Lucas Bergvall. And was given 5 signings this summer, 4 of them being teenagers. To come in and do what them two have done at the age of 18 is freakish.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they've been brilliant considering their age and how they've adapted. It's been fantastic. And, you know, people have been critical of Ange for not playing them enough, but I think he's doing a really good job developing them.
Hotspur Central saying, broadly speaking, everyone seemed to accept the post-Jose Conte Nuno that we needed to reset, get a manager in for the long haul and build from the bottom up again. Everyone knew that would come with tough points and struggles, but now we've hit those struggles. Many want to give up. Is that directed at me?
I don't think it's not directed at me.
No. I think that's true, and it's something that I did consistently say. And I've even this season I've said, like, I can't handle the managerial merry-go-round, and I don't think it's the right way to go. But then again, I look at what we've been doing, and I just don't think it's been good enough. And maybe we are just backing the wrong horse. That's just how I feel.
Maybe, but I think we should give it every opportunity, in my opinion. And I just think
what is every opportunity
the
then?
end of the season.
Because you're saying if we lose to Tamworth, he should get sacked. So is that every opportunity?
Tamworth would be one of the biggest embarrassments in not just our history, but football history. If that was to happen. I don't think we're going to lose to Tamworth. But look, I think, we should give him every opportunity to see what he...
What is every opportunity, though?
This season, all the cups, give him to the end of the season, to give him the opportunity to turn around the results as well and not sack him in the midst of an injury crisis when it's very hard to turn it around. And also when a new manager probably isn't going to be able to turn it around right now anyway. So I don't see the point of it. So I think every opportunity is we're still in all the cups. He hasn't gone out of any cups as of now. Yes, we're struggling badly in the league because of the circumstances, but, you know, hopefully after the Arsenal game and in a few weeks' time, players are coming back and maybe a few signings, we can start to turn that form around as well. Get a few more wins on the board and really just get our way up the table a bit. That's what I mean by every opportunity. Then come the end of the season, we take where we're at. We assess the situation, in my opinion. I think just changing it now, if the project can work, if there's any possibility that project can still work, you want to stick with it, because changing and starting a new cycle is just going to reset, and that the new manager's going to have to go through tough periods as well, and we know he's going to want his players, all these different changes. But if there's any chance that this can still work, you're better off giving it that opportunity, and I think there's still a chance it can work.
Well, look, it doesn't look like we are going to sack him, as much as I said I would and whatever. And like I keep saying, I will support him till the end, as I do with any manager. When you're in the stadium, when you're supporting the team, you just got to support the team, no matter what players on the pitch.
He does seem to have the general support more of match-going fans. I would say
you have to support your own when you're in the stadium. Whatever your opinions are of a Timo Werner, whatever your opinions are of an Ange Postecoglou, you have to support them through it. Whether you can talk and assess it after the game and before the game all you want, but when you're in that stadium, when the match is going on, you have to support the team.
No, but what I'm saying is, given where we are in the league and stuff, it could have been a lot more toxic. I think the match-going fans apparently 40,000 or odd stayed behind to clap the players yesterday, despite the fact we have got no home wins in 2 months. I saw some video. I saw Sean doing a video. He was going around, talking to fans. A lot of them were just, very much Ange in at that point. Like,
I think it is a mix, though. I do think it's mixed.
I think it's more toxic on social media than it is in the ground.
Oh, for sure. But, you know, we had that thing at Bournemouth, didn't we, when they were calling him this and they were calling him that. We hear
You got
boos.
a few idiots.
We
Yeah, I
hear
don't think it's
boos.
the majority of
We hear,
French
you know,
fans.
big boos at the end of a lot of games as well. You just hear a lot of disgruntlement around the stadium. I do think that the majority of the frustrations are being put in the right direction, and that is towards Daniel Levy and the board. And I think that's where it should be directed at. Nathan Clark says, hard to offer anything close to a serious analysis with the squad like this. Good fight in the second half. Lyle Thomas says, for what Tottenham spent on Solanke, which was 65 million, Brentford bought Wissa and Mbeumo, Sade, Ivan Toney and Igor Thiago, roughly for 56.5 million, with plenty of change to spare, and they have just gone above Spurs by 3 points.
Yeah, but does Solanke still start for them right now if he was there?
Who?
Oh, sorry, 1 minute. Brentford. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's not Bournemouth, that's Brentford. Would Solanke start for Brentford right now? Probably. I know Brentford are doing really well, but I don't know, it's a bit odd to suggest that the problem is that Tottenham have spent 65 million on Solanke. But also shows that you can spend money smartly.
You look at that. You look at that four though: Wissa, Mbeumo, Sade, Toney, and Thiago. I mean, 3 of those players probably get heavy minutes at Spurs.
Yeah, Mbeumo definitely.
Mbeumo, Wissa, and Toney.
Wissa, yeah, Wissa as well, potentially. What up front? I mean, I don't think he gets in ahead of Solanke.
I mean, I prefer Sade than Timo. That's the reality.
Yeah,
as
Sade
well.
probably ahead of Timo. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not wrong. It's not wrong.
Carly on You Spurs says, yeah, he gets it. And this was Pedro Porro responding to Brandon Austin's Instagram post.
Do you reckon the club have said
Yido, I love that.
Do you reckon the club have said anything to him about that?
Probably.
Saying Yido, using
Knowing
the
our
Y
club.
word.
No, knowing our club.
Don't
they
say that.
definitely
I wonder
have.
if he's deleted it.
Yeah, well, it probably has, to be honest. Liam Murphy says, never seen such an unadulterated support for a manager that I have for Ange Postecoglou. He is the poorest manager we've employed since Christian Gross based on results, yet every defeat is due to context and never down to him. Lowest points return in 20 years, but Ange is elite.
I wouldn't say every defeat is down to context. I would say right now the form that we're in and the why we're getting results that we are is down to context. I would say, obviously, in the beginning of the season, when we were losing stupid games to like Ipswich and Palace, we lost some of those games. Which, by the way, in the further Chelsea lost to Ipswich. It's not that you can lose those games, but obviously those aren't games. At that time, were not due to context. That was due to us not being good enough. But I think you got to give that the team the ability to make mistakes as well and learn from different games. But the reason why we're in the form that we're in right now, which is no wins at home in 2 months and all these different things and all this, and we're 12th in the league and 1 win in 8, is not because we're a terrible team, in my opinion. Not because Ange is not managing the team well. I just think that's the situation we're in, all these injuries, and it's hard to get consistent results or get results at all at the moment with the defence that we have out there. We're trying. I think the team's given their all, but it's just very difficult, and I think most fans understand that. But obviously, the points total where we are in the league, no one's happy about it. No one wants us to be there, and we all know that needs to improve. And if we finish in this position or doesn't have any sign of improving at any point, then there'll obviously be once players come back, I should say. Then obviously there'll be serious questions asked, and maybe at the end of the season we'll get rid of him. But I just think right now most people understand the context we're in.
Liam Murphy says Postecoglou has to go. The man is out of his depth. We can't keep living in a fantasy land pretending we are going somewhere with him in charge. The brand of football works in farm leagues against semi-professionals, but it doesn't work in the Premier League. Ange out.
Well, obviously that's a very harsh way of looking at it. I think it can work. I think he's had good wins and he's won games with this brand of football in this league as well. When he's had the right pieces, most of all. Yeah, I just think we got to give him the chance to turn it around.
Strawn THFC says the backline of an 18-year-old midfielder and right back and left back who thought their time at Spurs was done long ago, an 18-year-old midfielder from Sweden and 2 anonymous wingers, and we still outplayed a side on a run of 6 games in a row. That should give you faith in Ange. Do you agree with that?
I mean, the fact that we were able to cobble up that kind of performance yesterday did give me a bit more faith, that we can turn this form around, for sure.
Yeah, I just feel like we always kind of turn up and give those kind of energy levels when we play like the top 6, top 7 sides.
Maybe. Yeah, but we don't. I don't think. I think a lot of teams, playing the way that we do, I'm not sure they would have put in that kind of performance yesterday and under those circumstances with illness and everything. Like the energy we put in and the fact we were able to keep them quiet, and that's the main thing I'm very impressed about. We were able to kind of, especially in that second half, made sure that they weren't opening us up like too much, and we weren't exposed too much with that back line. Is look, fair play to the team.
Thing is, I'm looking at our results against like the bottom half teams in the league this season, and it's just like I don't ever remember being so bad against the bottom half teams, ever. Like you look at, we dropped points against Leicester, we dropped points against Wolves, we dropped points against Ipswich, dropped points against Palace. What was our, we beat Brentford, didn't we, this season? So like all of those teams, we've dropped 4 points. We've dropped 4 games against like teams that, in pretty much any other season against any other manager, we would have been picking up points.
Yeah, and that's also not good enough. I concede that. I'm not going to sit here and say that's fine. It's not fine. It's not good enough. But I think on another day, a couple of those results, especially the Wolves and the Leicester games, and on another day we could have easily won those games. It wasn't like we were outplayed. Like we could have easily won those games. Obviously, Ipswich and Palace, we weren't good enough at all. But it's not like we've just been terrible in all those games, is my point.
Next up, Simon Yemene says Spurs are obliterated by injuries, literally playing fullbacks and 18-year-old centre mids at centre back. Yet these lads are throwing everything they have at Newcastle. This overcowering in a low block at home every day. And if can't see these players are committed to Ange, you're mad. I've never said these players aren't committed to Ange. I think the players are committed to Ange, but they're committed to Ange and we still can't get consistent results. And when you're looking at the players that we have, we should be getting better results than we're getting, injury crisis or no injury crisis, even before the injury crisis. So that's kind of where I'm at. Spurs Army says Destiny Doggy slams VAR, and he was watching a game at home yesterday and he took to Instagram and said, VAR, what a joke.
Yeah, I think we were all feeling that yesterday. It's more the referee, I think. If the referee saw the handball, he just should have blown. I think he just should have blown the whistle and not this controversy wouldn't have happened. Yeah. I think VAR actually were in a bit of more of a sticky situation because, it's referee's call and was it accidental, was it not? And they kind of got stuck in their own heads. But I think if the referee just blows the whistle, no one says anything.
Probably. Sean THFC says, no matter what happens, Spence and Gray are absolute heroes. Insane performance in the second half. Can't be overstated how well they've played out of position.
Yeah, 100%. Thought we put him on a really big display in that second half, and fair play to them.
Lily White Lab, not much to say about today except the fact that it's so clear these players haven't checked out from the project, show real fight determination and intensity, just really lacking quality, unfortunately. Badly need players in the door back from injury. Solanke, Porro, Bergvall, the standouts. But I mean, again, that was all true yesterday. But I don't think that was true against Wolves. I don't think it was true against Forest. I don't think it was true against Liverpool. I don't think it was true against games like against Rangers, against Bournemouth, against Fulham, against Rome. Like there's so many games since the injuries have come in that hasn't been true.
I disagree. I think.
How do you disagree?
I disagree. Yeah, we haven't been as good in some of those games, but I think we're still trying our best, and we're
the intensity was nowhere near the same. Nowhere near.
Yeah, when you're playing every 3 days, the intensity will drop, of course. When you have a bit of a break, like we did, even though there was players with flu, there were players without flu, and I think they were fresher when they had a bit more of a break, and there's more evidence that this games every 3 days is really killing us at the moment, especially with the situation the squad is in. I saw the Wolves game. I thought they were giving everything in that Wolves game. Absolutely everything. There was moments where intensity, but it completely dropped off near the end. But I think the Bournemouth game it was a very even game up until the last 20 minutes where we fell apart, and then it could have been anything. But up until that bit, it was a very close game. Forest was a very close game in general, very close game. It was only 1-0 in the end.
I'm not saying that we're not in games. I'm talking about the intensity in the fight. That's what he's talking about in the tweet. That's what
we
I'm
were able
talking
to
about.
keep it up yesterday for longer because of probably longer rest. And also, we were able to make a triple sub. We made a triple sub during in that second half that allowed us to
Could we
keep
not have done that in those games as well?
Maybe, I don't know. I can't remember who was on the bench and who wasn't, but maybe
Same
we could have
players?
done that. Not necessarily. I think we had a few players back potentially.
Who?
Well, who started? Well, Bergvall started.
Who was on the bench?
Bergvall
Who would have
started.
been on the bench, yeah.
Who else started? Who went off?
Reguilon.
Who went off? Bergvall, Sarr, and who went off?
Dragoshin, Timo, Sarr, and Bergvall.
Timo. So he started Timo.
Yeah, but all these players,
But I'm saying,
players that have been available yesterday would have been available in this run.
Yeah, so but I'm saying he would have started the likes of Son, Maddison, Basuma, and you were asking the likes of Werner, Bergvall, and who else came on at that moment? Maddison.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Apart from Maddison, not Maddison. No. Timo, Bergvall, and Sarr. You're asking if he's starting.
Basuma came on.
Basuma. Okay. But I'm saying if you're asking, I'm saying the ones who started, Bergvall, the ones who went off, Bergvall, Sarr, and Werner, it's very different asking them to start right when there's players with flu, and you ask them to start right and just keep the energy levels at the start, and then you're asking Son, Maddison, and Basuma to come on and change the game. We're asking Bergvall, Werner, and Sarr come on to change the game. It's not going to be as effective, I don't think.
Yeah, but you've got the better players starting who should be
Yeah.
making more of an impact. So, I mean, it works both ways.
Yeah.
All right, next up is... One second. Was that Lily White Lab just there? Oh, I've lost it now. I need to scroll all the way down.
McTurb.
McTurb says, I've once said, I'll say it 100 times, I don't understand why Joe Linton is officiated the way he is. Seems to have one rule book. He'd be sent off every week if I was the referee. Absolutely horrible player. And yeah, we were saying that in the match review. I mean, he gets away with murder week in, week out.
Every week. He should be. I don't know how many red cards he had this season, because he should have at least 4. I swear. It's ridiculous.
How many red cards? Let's have a look. So he's had none.
Yeah.
No red cards, 7 yellow cards. 7 yellow cards this season, 6 last season, and 12 the season before.
He's just
Fun fact for you, Joe Linton has never had a red card in the Premier League.
That's mad. That's mad. He's ref differently, I swear.
I'm telling you, if it was Romero doing what Joe Linton was doing, he'd get sent off every single game.
100%.
That Yidvid says, top effort from a lot of the players today under less ideal circumstances, but that's 0 wins in 6 home games since beating Villa more than 2 months ago. 2 points from a possible 18.
Look, and that is what we have to face at the moment. That's the truth. It's not good enough. Obviously, the only one there where obviously Wolves, where we should have won, where we didn't, and then Ipswich, where it wasn't a good performance at all. The other games have been Chelsea, Liverpool, and Newcastle, I think.
Yeah. Apollo says, I generally don't understand fans who see our situation and scream Ange out, especially if you watch the matches. Ange is working well with what he's got. I just disagree. I think he is hamstrung at the moment, but everyone just keeps going towards this injury crisis and don't look at before the injury crisis when there were clear red flags.
Look, there were bad defeats, but we're also winning games.
But we were also losing way too many games.
Yeah, we were losing too many games, but that could have turned potentially. And now we're in the form that we are in because of this injury crisis.
But whatever, we're on terrible form. We weren't on terrible form, but we were on not good enough form. That's the reality. Against teams that we should have been beating.
We were on good enough form to keep us competitive.
But it's not form that really kicked us on from last season.
No, but you have all the extra games, and that's probably as well why we couldn't kick on in the league as well as we should have.
Bardi says the fact that the players still believe in Ange is why we need to run this out, but things have to improve. Yes, they do, my friend. Yes, they do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know they have to improve. I think Ange knows that. Everyone knows they have to improve.
Athletic. Oh, this is a bloody long one. Tottenham are in crisis with so many injuries and this week's illness bug. And in times like this, you need your senior players to step up. Given the absences in other areas, the patched together backline, third choice goalkeeper, Spurs at least needed their leaders in attacking positions to contribute. And yet when Ange Postecoglou picked the team for today's game, he did so without perhaps their two highest profile attacking players. Son Heung-min was left on the bench, very unusually for him, while James Maddison was named as a sub for the third consecutive league game. Speaking before the match, Postecoglou said that Son's benching was selection and to do with the workload Spurs have at the moment. But no one could argue with he's been the best. He hasn't been the best in recent weeks, whether or not left or filling up front, replacing Dom Solanke. Maddison has now not started since the 6-3 demolition by Liverpool. Here on December the 22nd, Spurs lacked some of his inventiveness against Wolves especially. And while he was ill then, Postecoglou said on Friday that the midfielder had recovered. And then he came on against Newcastle. He immediately improved Spurs and nearly helped them to find an equaliser. But it was telling that Postecoglou's preference was Dejan Kulusevski as the 10 in a 4-2-3-1 system that have been tweaked for solidity. Ultimately, it is Kulusevski and Solanke who are Spurs' most important attacking players right now, carrying the fight to the opposition every game. Son and Maddison, like Timo Werner and Brennan Johnson, feel less important. Well, and that's from Jack Pitbrook.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting. Yeah, it's true. The undroppables at the moment do feel like Solanke and Decky, and Son and Maddison feel like, especially Maddison, I feel less so Son, albeit he did get dropped yesterday or rested or whatever. It does feel like Ange feels like he can't play without Solanke and Decky right now, but he doesn't feel the same about Son and Maddison.
Because I feel like Solanke and Decky give us that aggression that maybe Son and Maddison don't give. However, I feel like in terms of really hurting the opposition, probably Maddison and Son bring that more.
I think when it comes to like creatively, quality-wise, like deep passes and stuff, yes, but in terms of the ability to physically compete and like get the better of the opposition physically, that's where Decky and
that's what I'm saying.
That's where Decky and Solanke come in.
Yeah, because Son has got 11 goal contributions in the Premier League this season, and Maddison has, where's Maddison?
Got 12.
Yeah, whatever, around that figure.
8 goals, 4 assists.
And both Solanke and Kulusevski have less, I think.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Spurs Connect showing Newcastle's man the match yesterday, and that was the ref.
The referee, yeah.
Well, who was this ref yesterday? I don't even know his name.
I don't know. It doesn't deserve to be named. Bastard.
And then now Arsenal say, I hate Spurs, but that Newcastle goal should never stand. It's clear handball in the build-up.
Got Gunas on side.
Yeah. Makes me want to go against it. Bardi says, it doesn't matter how hard you believe, how much you believe, or how desperately you want it to work. It's not working. We're in a crisis, and we're hurtling with Hail Mary football towards either half finish or the first relegation flirt in a generation.
Yeah, that's also true. I mean, that's absolutely right. I don't disagree with that, to be honest. The way things are going, that's the reality right now. As much as the circumstances are what they are, that is true. And again, my only point is I don't think a changing manager would help that right now, but that is the reality of what the situation is.
Spurs OTM saying a key difference for me compared to difficult times under previous managers is that the players are clearly still giving their all and playing for Ange. In the past, we've seen situations where players stop fighting for the manager, but I don't think that is happening here.
Yeah, I think we've definitely seen that under previous managers.
Yeah, it's true, but we've never seen it this bad in terms of league position and results as well.
Yeah, which is crazy to think that if the players are still on side, they must really believe in that way of playing. If we can see the results and they're still, not turning on the manager or phoning it in or anything.
But then again, if the players really believed, you thought you would see much better results even before the injury crisis.
Look, we've screwed up a few times. That can happen with a young team, and that did happen. And obviously that needs to also improve. But I still think that if the players are still on side, there must be a reason for it.
Next one is
taken down.
next one is from Alex, the Euro exports expert. Says, I do think when Postecoglou leaves Spurs, he will have set the next manager up well to succeed. Just the time spent on the training ground in coaching attacking play, it's clearly improved during his time there. I don't think you can take that away from him. I actually do agree with that. I do agree with that.
Yeah, I think even if it doesn't work out, I think the attacking nature of the team, the fact that we're much better with the combinations and stuff in the final third, that will help Sanderson instead. Hopefully, for if a new manager has to come in.
And last but not least, Carly on your Spurs says, apparently our new goalkeeper goes by the name of Tonda.
Tonda.
That's his name on Instagram, Tonda Kinski.
There you go. Big up to Tonda.
Big up to Tonda. And yeah, I think that is that for Reacts. So I want to big up everyone who did join the stream today. And we'll be back tomorrow for some more content for you guys. So see you guys later. Let's hope by tomorrow we do have a new signing to talk about. But we'll see what happens. Maybe KOLO MUANI, what do you reckon?
I would like it to be Christmas, just a new signing every day. For 8 days. That'd be nice.
This is a season to be jolly.
I can see Vicario's posted a picture of him without crutches or a boot.
Lovely stuff. Just as we sign a new goalkeeper.
Perfect.
Porro did take down that comment.
Porro did take it down. Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah, not surprised.
But yeah, big up.
By the way, there was a lot of talk. I just want to mention, there was a lot of talk about yesterday about the capacity, all these tickets available. The capacity yesterday apparently was 61,200. So it wasn't
I don't buy that.
You don't buy it?
No.
But they do it by the scan, how many people scan in.
I don't know how they do it, but I know Arsenal, they were doing it by how many tickets purchased. I don't buy that because literally the morning of the game I saw thousands on the exchange.
Maybe it was hundreds, it looked like thousands.
Maybe. Could be right, but the amount I thought I saw an unprecedented amount of tickets available on all the Facebook groups on everything yesterday. It was crazy. I thought people were giving them away for free as well. I think those numbers are fake. I feel like maybe they counted the numbers on the exchange because they bought tickets or something.
Well, if they're up for sale, they're not bought, aren't they?
Well, they are bought because if they're not sold a certain amount of time before kickoff, they go back onto the season tickets thing.
Yeah, maybe. Fair enough.
But anyway, that is your stream for today. We'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.